What is going on, YouTube? Espresso Sheko here, and I'm in a little bit of an improvised sitting situation because somebody decided that my chair was the optimal place to go have a nap. And as per the laws of cats, I don't think I'm getting that chair back anytime soon. But that doesn't really matter too much because we just had two regionals go by. One in Monterrey, I think that's how you say it. Monterrey, Mexico, and Frankfurt, Germany. Two major VGC regionals in the return of the Regulation H format. So I thought it would be fun to dive into LabMaus and talk about some of the top Pokemon as well as some of the top teams. Now, the last time I did this for NAIC, and I talked about like the top 50-ish Pokemon and the top 10, maybe? I don't remember how many off the top of my head it was, but I thought it would be kind of fun to do something similar to that. And this time, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about maybe the top 25 Pokemon as well as the top 8 teams of both tournaments. So without further ado, let's jump right on in to LabMaus and go over that sweet data. Data. So as far as this video goes, I'm going to have some different timestamps down in the description. And then if there's a particular section of a particular regional you want to see covered, we can go from there and just kind of bounce around. And then that way too, you can just kind of go at your own leisure. We have the top 25 Pokemon for Monterrey, Frankfurt, as well as some interesting spicy Pokemon that I thought kind of stood out to me outside of the top 25. That it was like that showed up. And yeah, we'll talk about some of that stuff and kind of see what stands out and what might be seen in the future as far as some Regulation H events go. I also plan to talk about the top 8 teams from both regionals as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll do the 2 top 25 lists plus the 5 bonus Pokemon, and then we'll talk about the top 8 teams for both afterwards. And as far as the turnout goes for these regionals, we had 281 different teams in Monterrey and then 742 teams in Frankfurt. That is a lot of Pokemon at the end of the day. A lot of different unique combinations that could definitely be put together. And I am excited to see how this goes. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick things off with the top 25 Pokemon in the Monterrey Regional Championships for 2026. Our number 1 most used Pokemon in the Monterrey 2026 regional was Dragonite, which makes a lot of sense. Dragonite is an absolute powerhouse. It's got a lot of versatility in its move choice. As you can see, we've seen 113 with Scale Shot, we've seen 107 knowing Protect, 93 with Haze, and then it kind of varies a little bit going from there. We have Tailwind, we have Extreme Speed, we have Stomping Tantrum. We also had a few with Ice Spinner, Low Kick, Outrage, Terra Blast, even the odd Aqua Jet, Brick Break, Aerial Ace, Rain Dance, which Rain Dance is an interesting setup move to see with Dragonite, and we might see that paired more with a multi-scale set. I mean, you could make the case for seeing it on an Inner Focus to get around Incineroar and Fake Out as well, so maybe there's that. Dragon Cheer is a very spicy tech option. Earthquake, you know what, great spread coverage right there, especially if you are a little bit worried about redirection. I mean, we've seen Scale Shot, we've seen Extreme Speed, both of which are single target moves. Earthquake would provide some spread coverage if you're worried about redirection in that case. We see Facade, Fire Punch, Hurricane, and even Misty Terrain, which I didn't even realize Dragonite gets Misty Terrain, but yeah, that's a lot of variety. Now, obviously, the most common sets you do typically see are a combination of Scale Shot, Haze, Tailwind, Extreme Speed, and Protect. Between those 5 moves, you definitely tend to see a combination of those four of them together. Stomping Tantrum is fairly common as well. And As far as items go, it makes sense why we see so many loaded dice. 113 no scale shot, 113 are holding the loaded dice, which, yeah, that definitely makes sense because you want to be able to get that minimum of 4 hits out on your scale shot. Now, we do see a few with choice band. We see 5 specifically. We see 2 with the weakness policy, 1 with a muscle band, 1 with safety goggles. And the safety goggles can make sense because it would protect Dragonite from the likes of Spore, Sleep Powder, Rage Powder, and then that way too you don't have to commit to Terra Grass, but you do have one Terra Grass as well, so there is that. Which we'll talk on the rest of the Terras later. As far as teammates go with Dragonite, nothing too crazy right in the top percentages. Like we see Golden Go, we see Rillaboom, Annihilate, Ursaluna, Blood Moon, Incineroar, Sneasler, Archaludon, Pelipper, Mousehold, Volcarona, Hisuian, Ursaluna, Kingambit, Sinisha, Amoonguss, Electabuzz, Alolan Ninetales. You kind of see a little bit of a mix-up with Tyranitar because Tyranitar is not quite as prevalent as it used to be in past formats, but I mean, since a lot of the power level has decreased by going back to a non-legendary permitted format, I can see Tyranitar seeing a higher usage compared to previous Scarlet and Violet formats, seeing as you don't have to worry about the likes of Corridon or Kyogre, both of which are very dangerous weather setters in their own right that can threaten Tyranitar, especially Corridon with 4 times super effective fighting type stab, so there is that. Hisuian Arcanine is popping back up a little bit. We got Male and DD Garchomp. Interesting that we do see a couple of different dragon pairings, like between the Garchomp and the Archaludon with Dragonite. But at the same time, it's kind of not as surprising because Dragonite does have that Tailwind, so it can turn on the Tailwind to threaten some opponents and do some big damage with its partners by giving them speed as well, especially with the Archaludon. Like if the Archaludon sits on the field, it takes a little bit of damage. It gets a stamina boost or two. Then Body Press is going to hit. Well, we've all been on the receiving end of a body press at one point or another. It's not fun coming off of boosted Archaludon. Let's just put it that way. Now, as far as some different Terra options go, we see 61 having Fairy, 29 with Steel, 16 with Normal, 3 of them with Flying, which makes sense for Dragonite's other stab between Dragon and Flying, which, I mean, there's 2 Dragon Stab, Terra Boost, or, yeah, 2 Stab, Dragon, further boosted Terras. That was a weird way to phrase that. But yeah, anyways, we have 2 Dragons and 3 Flyings. 16 normal, which, that makes sense for extreme speed. 10 ground is fairly interesting, like to see stab on either Stomping Tantrum or Earthquake, which, I do respect that. Stab ground could threaten a lot of things, especially with, like, say, the Typhlosions, Arcanine variants, Archaludon. Being able to hit Archaludon for some super effective damage, if it's not terrestrialized, is great, especially since some Archaludon do like to run Terra Electric as opposed to Terra Grass. Like, normally you see, like, maybe, say, Terra Grass or Terra Bug, but you might see the odd Terra Electric to gain stab on Electro Shot. So, I can see the ground coverage, and then that way, too, even if you're not just hitting the Archaludon for super effective damage, I can see the defensive value of it, since now you're becoming immune to Electro Shot. And if you can make your opponent waste a turn going for an Electro Shot into your ground type Dragonite, all the better. And then that way too, you don't have to worry about them inflicting damage to you. They still get their special attack boost, but I mean, they're not doing the damage at least. So small mercies, I guess. And as I mentioned earlier, there was the 1 Terra Grass, so that could have been, I don't know if it would have been, like, say, a weakness policy or a choice band or loaded dice, but yeah, I can see that. And then the Dragonite wouldn't have to worry about filling its item slot with safety goggles. The other thing too is now it's at least protected from the likes of Spore when it goes for Terra. You're outright immune to the powder moves, you're resistant to grass type attacks, you're dropping your 4 times ice weakness to a 2 times weakness, so that's not too bad. And while you are losing your immunity to ground type attacks, you are becoming resistant to them as well. So I can kind of see it, but I can also understand why there's only the one. I get that too. Because you are becoming weak to fire, which fire is not something you necessarily want to become weak to. Same with flying, especially where Pelipper is such a strong rain setter partner next to our Chaladon, whereas it has that hurricane option right there. So like it can punish grass type Pokemon. So yeah, needless to say, a lot going on for the number one used Pokemon here in Monterrey. And we're not going to go that in depth for all 25 of them, but more or less, because it was the number one, I figured we'd go the extra mile there. Now we have Golden Go at number 2, Incineroar at number 3, Sneasler at number 4, Annihilate at number 5, and Rillaboom at number 6. All 5 of those Pokemon extremely powerful in previous regionals for Regulation H. I'm not surprised at all. Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Sneasler all provide Fake Out support. Golden Go can easily do a lot of damage with a Nasty Plot boosted Make It Rain. The fact that Golden Go is also immune to status moves is terrifying, especially since you could have a Haze user on the field next to Golden Go, and then if you're just not too concerned about clicking Make It Rain multiple times, you could just haze away those debuffs, and because Haze hits the entire field, I mean, you don't have to worry about good as gold just kind of saying no. So basically you reset Golden Go back up to neutral, so like, yeah, that's terrifying. And then Annihilate is just an absolute powerhouse. You have beat up strats. You have resistant Terras that can just make Annihilate resistant to multi-striking moves. Like Terra Fire Annihilate could be resistant to Bullet Seed. If you went Terra Steel, you could go for Population Bomb off of Mousehold. I mean, Mousehold also gets Bullet Seed too, so there you go. Like, yeah. The other thing too is like, although you would probably more likely see it with our Chaladon, like you could see Loaded Dice, faster Bullet Seed, Rillaboom, and honestly, let's look into Rillaboom, see if there was any Bullet Seed variants. Yeah, interesting. We had Drum Beating, which, you know, that's speed control right there. Who's the mad lad that ran a booster energy on this thing? But yeah, anyways, back to the moves. There's 3 of them had Bullet Seed right there, and 2 of them were holding Loaded Dice, so yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at right there. And then when you look at your teammates, there's Annihilate. If you scroll a little bit further down, you find our Chaladon. So like, yeah, there you go. There's your multi-striking move. And there's Mousehold as well. So, you know, Rillaboom and Mousehold together could have set up either an Archaladon or a Annihilate. So yeah, I'm definitely not surprised about that. Acrobatics is interesting to see off of Rillaboom. And then as far as the Terras go, we saw the majority of them at 72 as Terra Fire. We had a few Terra Waters, 2 Terra Ghost, which I'm kind of curious to see the Terra Ghost, what they would have been running EV-wise, because while Rillaboom does have the ability to outspeed max speed investment Incineroar, the Terra Ghost would just make it so that you could just naturally not have to worry about speed tying other Rillabooms for Fake Out, and you don't have to necessarily run so much speed investment into your Rillaboom, and you can just invest more into your bulk and attack power without having to invest into your speed in that case. Seeing as Rillaboom has Grassy Glide and Fake Out, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to invest in speed, so I guess Terra Ghost could be good. And to be honest, Terra Ghost is nice for that Fake Out immunity, so you don't have to worry about like the likes of Urshifu Single Strike and Calyrex Shadow Rider in Regulation H. So I can definitely see people cooking with that Terra Ghost. Terra Grass is interesting for extra damage, especially for a Grassy Glide or Wood Hammer power up. So like 2 Terra Grass makes sense, and you know, even the 1 Terra Dragon, I'm kind of curious to see the Terra Dragon, because you do gain resistance to fire and electric. Well, again, Rillaboom already has electric. You get to keep your electric and your water resistances while gaining fire, which is nice. And on top of that, you still have your grass. So like you have four pretty reliable resistances with Terra Dragon. So that is nice to see on Rillaboom. But the burn immunity from Terrifier and the Assault Vest combination definitely make a lot of sense. Speaking of the Assault Vest, we saw 53 Assault Vests, two metal plates, which I'm wondering between the Meadow and Miracle Seeds, if they were on well, we saw two Terra Grass. So I'm wondering if the two metal plates were on the Terra Grass for the extra grass type damage. Like maybe instead of just being support, this Rillaboom, these two Rillabooms were just going in for massive damage. Which I mean, Rillaboom does have a fairly respectable attack stat. I think it's 120. I'm gonna look that up and get back to you on that one. It's actually base 125 attack. So Rillaboom does pack a significant punch. So powering it up with Terra Grass and a grass boosting item, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And you know, even having the loaded dice and bullet seed combination on Rillaboom, like if you're hitting a minimum of 4 times with a base 25 power move, you effectively have a base 100 power grass type option with stab. And on top of that, you could also get that fifth hit, which would be like a base 125 power before stab is even applied and Terra or an item boost. Well, no, well, the item boost, I mean, loaded dice, so scratch that from the record. But anyways, point is, you could do a lot of damage to an opponent with a bullet seed as well. Like, it wouldn't necessarily have to be strictly set up. And setting that up into an Archelodon that's not terastallized, you're already at 4 times resistance to grass. And with stamina giving it a defense boost each hit, you could get away with running attack investment and not doing a whole lot of damage to your Archelodon, which, I mean, that is scary at the end of the day. So yeah. I'm glad to see that we got to see more bullet seed Rillaboom. The main point. And then getting back into our list here, we have Ursaluna Blood Moon at number 7, number 8 Archelodon, Hisuian Ursaluna at number 9, which it's nice to see both of the bears so high up at number 7 and number 9. We got Pelipper at number 10, Amoonguss at 11. Indeedee Male at 12, Volcarona at 13, and Tyranitar at 14. Now, a lot of powerful Pokemon. And the nice thing here, too, is looking into some of these Pokemon, they can fit onto either a rain or a sand team. Like, the two Ursalunas are part ground, Archelodon's a steel type, so, like, all three of those Pokemon wouldn't have to worry about sand chip damage. Amoonguss has Regenerator to pivot itself out, so it doesn't really care. Indeedee has the Psychic Terrain, so you don't have to worry about priority moves into Tyranitar. Like, you wouldn't have to worry about Fake Out. You wouldn't necessarily have to worry about Fighting-type Pokemon as much because you have that Stab Expanding Force coverage on Indeedee to threaten Fighting-type Pokemon. And therefore, if your opponents wanted to go for Fighting-type damage into Tyranitar, it would probably be safer coming from as a coverage move from a non-fighting type. So if Tyranitar terastallized away from its 4 times fighting weakness, well, now that Pokemon that's going for the fighting type attack naturally doesn't have the damage modifier from stab. And if Tyranitar becomes resistant, Tyranitar should be able to shrug things off because it's got great physical bulk. Between its HP and defense stats being a respectable numbers. So I think Tyranitar might see a resurgence coming up with Sand. Whether or not we see a Sand Rush sweeper next to it, whether it be Excadrill or Houndstone or maybe something else like, say, Sandville Garchomp, that's an interesting thing to think about. Volcarona could also be great with redirection support as well as tailwind support. Like, Tyranitar is not the fastest Pokemon, but I mean, it's still fast enough at base 61 speed. Like, if you put some decent speed investment into Tyranitar, maybe even a Clear Amulet, like, you could potentially threaten an Incineroar pretty badly. And since Incineroar is such a strong Pokemon, with that Intimidate support as well as Fake Out, like getting a good hard rock type attack off into Incineroar, whether it's a Rock Slide or Stone Edge, that could be pivotal, getting rid of an Incineroar early on. So I do like seeing that Tyranitar coming back in here. And the other nice thing too is seeing Volcarona in Amoonguss, like if you have a Rocky Helmet on either of those Pokemon, redirecting away, like say a attack, like say Mousehold's beat up or population bomb, and having Rocky Helmet chip damage just wear them down, that can be great as well. And bonus points for Volcarona with Flame Body burn odds. So that's a pretty nice thing as far as that goes. And yeah, as far as that batch of Pokemon go, I think that's the main thing I wanted to cover right there. So going past Tyranitar, we got Mousehold, we got King Gambit, we have our Sunsetter Torkoal at number 17. There's Garchomp at 18. We're seeing some redirection support with Electabuzz at 19, Sinisha at 20, Indeedee Female at 21. So all three of those Pokemon, great redirection. And we also saw Mousehold at number 15 too. So like we've got 4 different powerful redirection Mons right here with either Follow Me or Rage Powder in Sinisha's case. And these Pokemon have some good supportive utility as well. Like Mousehold has Friend Guard, so it can reduce the amount of damage that its teammates take. Sinisha with Hospitality can heal up its partners when it switches into battle. Electabuzz has a speedy taunt as well as the potential speed control. It can't be put to sleep either, and because it's naturally an electric type, it can't be paralyzed. So like if Electabuzz redirects away at Dire Claw from Sneasler, like the only thing Electabuzz is likely taking status wise is poison, which honestly is probably the best case scenario because now you're not getting a speed drop from the para and you're not losing a turn to sleep with Electabuzz. So that's really nice. We also have some really good damage dealers as well with King Gambit, Torkoal, and Garchomp. Like King Gambit, regardless of whether it's running a Swords Dance set or has coaching support, like it can do a lot of damage at +1 or +2. Plus Defiant gives it that natural ability to check Intimidators. So like it could put a lot of pressure on opposing Incineroar, especially if it's the Assault Vest variant that might know Low Kick or Terra Blast. Like it can just punish Incineroar big time. And if Incineroar terastallizes away from the dark typing, Kowtow, Cleave, and Sucker Punch can do big damage. And then we have Torkoal, which is a massive threat in Trick Room, or if it has Hisuian Lilligant on the field with After You, it can go for almost immediate eruptions. It also gets Weather Ball, and then on the supporting side, it gets Helping Hand. It also gets Clear Smog too, so like, if you resist a hit from, say, a Dondozo, and it doesn't pick you off, and it's not Terra Steel, like, Torkoal just has to say goodbye and hit it with a Clear Smog, and now all of its stat boosts are gone, and now it's in a really bad position with Tatsugiri in its mouth, just wondering what just happened. So, yeah, there's definitely that. And also going back to King Gambit is very slow as well, too, so, like, King Gambit could be a huge threat in Trick Room, which, again, all the more notable that we have Sinisha and Indeedee right there because both of them have Trick Room capabilities, and male Indeedee was further up at number 12. So, like, you have 3 really prominent Trick Room Mons from number 12 to 21. Just below female Indeedee, there's also Porygon 2, which we didn't touch on, but yeah, Porygon 2, the pretty much the progenitor of Trick Room at this point. So, like, yeah, that's definitely a lot going on right there. And then, Garchomp, Garchomp doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. It's fast, it hits hard. Now, it has definitely been power crept in terms of speed, but Garchomp is still a threat 5 generations after its debut. And what do we see with Garchomp? Well, we see some common partner Pokemon: Goldengo, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Tyranitar, Annihilate, Dragonite, Whimsicott, Sneasler, Talonflame, which, Talonflame having priority on Tailwind thanks to Gale Wings is scary. We have Primarina too. Like, Primarina can just threaten on the special attacking side, where Garchomp can threaten on the physical side. Hyper Voice turning into a spread water type attack could be great for dealing with Pokemon that Garchomp might not necessarily want to deal with. We have a lot of Dragon Claw. We have a lot of Earthquake. We do have a fair chunk of Stomping Tantrum. We do see some Rock Slide, which, Sword and Stance boosted Rock Slide could be scary. Interestingly enough, we see Liquidation, which that's another coverage move that I forgot Garchomp got this generation. I think it was Gen 9 that gave it Liquidation. I don't think it got it in Generation 8. But either way, Liquidation's a scary option for coverage because, if there's any mono ground Pokemon or any dual ground typing Pokemon that are still weak to water, like that could be scary, especially if Garchomp did get a Sword Stance boost. We have Scale Shot as well, which can make Garchomp even faster. And we do see 3 loaded dice and 3 Scale Shots. So I think it's safe to assume all 3 of those Scale Shot users were holding loaded dice. We see a Bright Powder as an item, which, that can be nasty on a Garchomp since Sandville naturally boosts evasion before the Bright Powder. So, like, Garchomp could be dodging hits that it has no business dodging in the sand. So, like, yeah, there's that. We have Life Orb for some extra damage boost. Same with Choice Band. We have the Clear Amulet to protect it from stat drops. There's a lot right there. And then we do see Terra Fire to protect it from burns. We do see, as far as its 2 abilities go, the majority of them were Rough Skin. So, having that little bit of chip damage into opponents makes sense, especially glassy Pokemon like, say, Sneasler, that might like to run the Focus Sash and have that physical damage. Like, having that Rough Skin potentially break a Focus Sash is definitely huge, especially since Sneasler is faster than Garchomp. So, I mean, if the Sneasler broke its Focus Sash and the Garchomp turned around with a Stomping Tantrum or an Earthquake, and that Sneasler was not terrestrialized, bada bing, bada boom, you're saying goodnight, Sneasler. No Dire Claw for you in the future. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Interestingly, we have Terra Stellar to boost up its firepower. So, like, yeah, I can definitely see a Terra Stellar Sword Stance combination maybe running around. We do only see 2 of those. We do see 1 Terra Water, which I feel like that's the Liquidation Garchomp. Something just kind of makes me think that one there. Anyways, that was Garchomp right there. Let's get back into the list here. Getting down into it, we stopped at Indeedee, bringing us to the top 25. We have Basculegion at 22. Strong, swift swimmer. Archaludon's a thing. Last Respects, doing more damage based off your partner Pokemon that have fainted. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to see Basculegion. We have Porygon 2, bulky Trick Room support with the ability to raise its special attack potentially thanks to download. Yeah. You could tell I've definitely been around the block a few times because Porygon 2, I see it and it scares me. Because I know exactly what it feels like to get just nailed by Porygon 2. We got Whimsicott at number 24, which, Fast Tailwind, that definitely makes sense. Encore, being able to lock opponents into Protects or Setup, definitely makes a whole lot of sense. You can even have the odd Trick Room on Whimsicott. And then we have Alolan Ninetales rounding out the top 25. It's fast, it's got access to Auroraville, it has access to Encore, it has Freeze Dry to punish Water-type Pokemon, it has the ability for that spread Blizzard damage, it can go for Helping Hand, it has Moonblast. Like, Ninetales, while it does have great supportive options, it can still do respectable damage at the end of the day. So that's our top 25 Pokemon as far as Monterrey goes. Now, a couple of interesting Pokemon that I did see outside of the top 25. We're going to scroll down to number 54. We had 3 different Greninja, and we had 3 different Greninja knowing Haze. We had 2 of them knowing Water Shuriken. We had Dark Pulse. We even had Hydro Cannon, which, that's a spicy one. Hydro Cannon, you're not moving after the end of the turn. So, that could be huge if you're just going for the big wind up and then have really good faith Greninja is not going down next turn. Or if you're just ready for Greninja to go down. And a notable thing here about Greninja, it's the fact that Water Shuriken is not only a multi-striking move, it's a multi-striking move that has priority. So, you slap that loaded dice. Now you're easily setting up a resisted hit into Archaludon, a resisted assault vested hit, by the way, because Water Shuriken is special. So like that assault vest is definitely helping Archaludon. You can easily boost up Rage Fist damage with Annihilate. And while Greninja does kind of struggle compared to Smeargle, because Smeargle can also do this, what it has that Smeargle doesn't is its super high base speed stat right out of the gate. A max speed timid Greninja outspeeds a maximum speed Dondozo by exactly 1 point. Meaning, if that Dondozo gets the +2, it's still 1 point short to outspeed Greninja. Greninja goes for the haze. There goes your boost, Dondozo. Now you're kind of stuck, wondering what's going on and what just happened. And I may or may not have ran Greninja in Louisville for the exact same reason. I looked into it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to run Haze. And talking to people, they were like, Smeargle does its job better. It's like, yes, it does. I definitely see that because Smeargle can do Spore on top of Water Shuriken and having Follow Me. But Greninja does have that super fast Haze right out of the gate. So it can be a nice little... We're just trying to think of a nice word to put it. But it's basically... It can give Dondozo a nice little sentiment as it goes up to do that Haze animation. Let's just put it that way. Now, another Pokemon that I thought that was kind of spicy to see is actually number 68. Pikachu. 2 Pikachu showed up to this tournament, and 2 different Pikachu had the Light Ball, which, makes sense. Light Ball doubles Pikachu's attack and special attack. Is Pikachu the hardest hitting thing to begin with? No. Is it the hardest hitting thing with a Light Ball? No. But it is funny. It gets Fake Out, it gets Knock Off, it even gets Upper Hand. And Volt Tackle just does insane damage as well, like... While Wild Charge doesn't do the most damage, Volt Tackle does. Basically, the developers were like, you know what? Electric type Flare Blitz might be a little too broken. What do? Well, let's give it to Pikachu to balance it out. And, it kind of makes sense. Pikachu with Fake Out support can be nice. Volt Tackle to just devastate something that's unsuspecting is nice. Interestingly enough, the Terra types on this were Dark and Electric. So, they were split 50-50. I get the Electric Terra because, Volt Tackle is going to do so much more damage, but I'm curious about the Terra Dark. Maybe, I don't know if maybe they were just worried about, Encore from Whimsicott. Maybe if Upper Hand didn't work or Protect. I'm wondering if that's what the Terra Dark was for, but... Terra Ghost kind of makes a little bit more sense, and then that way too you don't have to worry about Fake Out, because Pikachu is Fake Out bait. It has no way around Fake Out. Now, looking at the Pokemon that were on the team with it, we have Dragonite, we have Murkrow, Blaziken, Volcarona, Rillaboom, Dragapult, Farigiraf, Kingambit, Goldengo, and Charizard. We don't see any Psychic Terrain. We do see Farigiraf, which is nice. So, Farigiraf does have the ability to stop the priority. So, that does make some sense. Rillaboom having the grassy terrain is kind of nice, too, because, it enables its own priority while overriding Psychic Terrain, while the Farigiraf is able to deny that. So, I can definitely see that. So, yeah... I can definitely see that working out, and Blaziken makes sense too because coaching, it can go for coaching into the Rillaboom, it can go into the Dragapult, it can even go into the Pikachu. So yeah, I can potentially see that for Pikachu right there. And then going into our next one is Klefki. At number 79, we saw exactly 1 Klefki show up to this regional, and I've been saying it since the beginning of Regulation H. Misty Terrain Klefki, or maybe not the beginning of Regulation H, but Misty Terrain Klefki is a great way of dealing with Sneasler. It can just make it so that all grounded Pokemon are not getting statused, which I think that's a huge thing. It also has the screen support, so Klefki can come in, it can set up the terrain, it has the screens, and now you don't have to worry about your partner Pokemon getting statused, which is huge. And you do have Dazzling Gleam, but I think Foul Play could be a nice option, like just being able to turn your opponent's attack stat back on them. But yeah, I think Klefki is definitely a great thing to see show up to this regional. And then our next one here is we actually have Barrascuda at number 88 and Medicham at 89. Now, I like seeing the Barrascuda because Barrascuda can do a lot of damage to stuff with a Choice Band. And that's exactly what this Soul Barrascuda was doing. It had a Choice Band, it had 3 different water type attacks, and Terra Water, which, you know, makes sense. Close combat can just absolutely decimate steel types, or, you know, a specific steel dragon type Pokemon that resist those water type attacks. I can definitely see Barrascuda running that Choice Bandit boosted close combat, which is huge to be able to deal with Archelodon. And then we have Medicham. We had one Medicham here. It's got Fake Out support, it's got Skill Swap, and it has the disgusting ability to potentially pass off its ability Pure Power to one of its partner Pokemon, whether that be Dragonite, Tyranitar, Excadrill. Like, all 3 of those Pokemon would definitely benefit from Pure Power. And the funny thing here is, like, if the Tyranitar already set up Sand and the Medicham gave it Pure Power, well, now the Tyranitar has double its attack. It's doing big damage. Similarly enough, if Dragonite's multiscale, if it was multiscale, was broken, Medicham could just pass Pure Power onto that, and now Dragonite now has a brand new ability, so now Dragonite can do some massive damage. And in a specific situation, like speed tier wise, like Excadrill with double power, like yeah, double attack Excadrill, that could be scary. That was the top 25 Pokemon used in Monterrey, with some 5 spicy Pokemon that I found going through the list that I thought was pretty cool to see in action. Now, I'm going to jump over to Frankfurt, and we're going to go over the top 25 Pokemon there. Okay, so jumping into Frankfurt. The top 6 Pokemon are pretty much just the same 6 mons as Monterrey, but kind of switched around. We don't see any major shakeup here. We have Goldengo at number 1, Sneasler at number 2, and it's actually tied with Goldengo at 284 appearances each, with Incineroar coming in at 283. At third, we have Rillaboom at 4th with 265 appearances. Dragonite has dropped from number 1 compared to Monterrey to number 5 at Frankfurt here with 257 appearances. And then there's a actual notable jump from number 5 to number 6 because Annihilate at number 6 had 188 appearances. Now, Annihilate is probably one of my favorite Pokemon to see, and I was able to watch a little bit of the stream. I watched round 5 of day 1, and man, that was such a wild pairing of games because Annihilate just got boosted up. It had 3 different support Pokemon. It had Klefki, it had Sinistcha, and I'm actually blanking on the 4th Pokemon. But anyways, Klefki was able to set up Misty Terrain for Annihilate in game 1. It was able to set up Light Screen for it in game 2. And Annihilate just did some massive damage to things with boosted Rage Fists. We even got to see a Volcarona just get coaching boosted multiple times by Sneasler just for the defense boost, and then the Annihilate just had to gamble on going for damage into it and potentially getting burned, because that game we didn't get to see the Misty Terrain go up, which, I mean, it was a very different game 2 versus game 1. Like game 1, we got to see Annihilate get set up quickly, Misty Terrain went up, and then Annihilate just started recycling through Drain Punch and Rage Fist, and we got to see a Terradark King Gambit go down. We got to see a Sneasler eat some damage as well. We got to see Volcarona get nailed with a hard-hitting Rage Fist. Yeah, it was a wild set. Like, I honestly want to go back and rewatch that and refresh my memory on it. But yeah, well, actually, to be honest, I want to go back and watch the VOD because if any of the other rounds were just as wild as round 5, I mean, it was definitely a good set of Pokemon to watch, that's for sure. Moving on, we have Ursaluna Blood Moon at number 7, and then Base at number 8, with 187 usages for, or I should say appearances. We have 187 appearances for Blood Moon and 151 for Base. We have Archaladon bringing up number 9, which, yeah, Archaladon made the top 10 here. I think going back to Monterrey. Oh, never mind. I was going to say, I want to say Archaladon was like closer to like closer to 20, but no. Archaladon was actually top 8 in Monterrey and number 9 in Frankfurt, which, you know what? Definitely another strong powerhouse Pokemon to see. We got a Moongus at number 10, Volcarona at 11, King Gambit showing respect at number 12. We got Pelipper at 117. Ninetales jumped up notably from compared to Monterey. Like at Monterey, it was number 25. Here we have it at 14. And what was Ninetales running here in Frankfurt? Whoa. Icicle Spear? Wow, okay. Loaded Dice Icicle Spear. That's... Wow. There's Annihilate. I'm assuming maybe Terra Fire. Do we see Archaladon? We do. So between Annihilate and Archaladon, Icicle Spear Ninetales, which, you know what? Ninetales doesn't have the highest hitting physical attacks, so yeah. Yeah, I see the logic there. Now, it is kind of a little bit of a shame that you are kind of potentially losing out on your item slot effectiveness by running a loaded dice, which, I mean, only 2 of them opted for the loaded dice out of the 17 that had it, which, you know what? Makes a lot of sense. Probably better to have some speed with the Choice Scarf or maybe even the Covert Cloak to protect it from Fake Out. I mean, Annihilate with a Ninetales as a partner with Covert Cloak makes sense because Annihilate naturally can't be faked out with its ghost typing. So, yeah. Yeah, okay. Like, I definitely see that. We see some more standard stuff, like a lot of Auroraville with 75 of them knowing that, 89 of them knowing Blizzard, 63 knowing Encore, 50 of them having Icy Wind. Disable is a little bit more niche, but we have 7 knowing that. And interestingly enough, Howl. Huh. Which, I mean, Howl next to Annihilate, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that, because Howl, like, affects your partner as well as you. I don't necessarily see Icicle Spear Howl being fit onto the same set, but, I mean, hey, if this happened, and I just don't know, let me know in the comments below. Like, I'm definitely curious about that. And then, you know, Misty Train is an interesting option because, like, you do protect your team from status. We have, as far as our Terras go, like, a lot of Ghost. At 66, we have 12 Ice, 9 Water, 7 Fire, 1 Flying, 2 Poison, and 4 Ground, and even 1 Steel. So, like, that is extremely creative. And I'm also just noticing the Araquanid as one of the team members. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I think I'm kind of fanboying a little bit, seeing a lot of these different Pokemon, but wow, the Alolan Ninetales, that's insane tech. Like, I'm glad I clicked in on that. We got Basculegion at 15. We got Tyranitar at 16. At 17, we got Electabuzz, Male Indeedee at 18. A lot of this stuff is very similar and expected for Regulation H, like the Male Indeedee having the Trick Room option, the Expanding Force Pressure, even the odd After You, which let's click into Male Indeedee and see what it's got. We got 30 with Trick, which is just wild. 30 of them with Imprison as well. So, like, 30 of them being able to just deny Trick Room. Like, yeah. Even being able to deny Helping Hand would be huge because then you don't have to worry about your opponent just giving their partner Mon a 50% boost in damage. Interestingly enough, we see the one Fago, which, I mean, hey, if you were really good with your protection, or not your protection, your prediction games, and you were expecting a Rillaboom to come in, you could just click Fake Out. Yeah, you could do that, or you could just manually reset the psychic terrain like an adult. So yeah, Yeah, I definitely see that, especially since all of them had Psychic Surge as their ability. So I'm thinking the Fake Out was definitely there to either be really good on your prediction game or just to block it out with Imprison. Like, I could just see that out of pure spite as well. As far as our Terras go, we have 61 with Terra Psychic for the extra damage on Expanding Force, 9 with Terra Fighting, which I mean, Fighting type Terra Blast is really good into a lot of stuff. Fairy is a nice Terra as well. Similarly enough, being able to punish Dark types with super effective Terra Blast could be great. We have a few Terra Ground, Terra Dark, Fire, and Poison. Like, interesting combinations. Like, I think, and I don't remember for sure, I think when I ran Malandini in Louisville, I think I ran Terra Fire with Terra Blast. Yeah, I specifically think I ran that for Golden Go, and then that way I'd just be able to hit a non-terrestrialized Golden Go for some super effective damage. I think that's what my logic was. I think that's what I ran. I think I ran Terra Fire. I don't remember. It was so long ago, but yeah, I definitely see the Terra Fire, Terra Blast possibility. That could be big. Some partners for Malandini, I can see Sneasler being able to just pop off with a Psychic Seed Unburden boost. Ursaluna Blood Moon makes sense, especially if Trick Room already went up, and then Ursaluna just doesn't have to worry about priority nailing it. Tyranitar, similarly enough, like, you have the ability to threaten fighting type Pokemon. If Trick Room's up, you don't have to worry about priority outspeeding Tyranitar. So yeah, a lot of that definitely does make sense for Male and Didi. And then bringing us down for the next little bit for the top 25, we have Sinistra, Porygon 2. So great Trick Room support in both of those Mons. Sinistra's got that healing ability, as I mentioned when going over the Monterrey list. We got Mousehold with some redirection and the ability to set up Annihilate and Archaludon. We have Garchomp at number 22, Torkoal at 23, Talonflame at 24, and Dragapult at 25. And let's take a quick look at Dragapult. Now, I'm expecting most of this to be Dragon Dart's Choice Band, which, I mean, 44 of them had Choice Band, 47 of them had Dragon Darts. Now, interestingly enough, 2 of them had Choice Specs for special attacking Dragapult, which, I mean, Dragapult does have very similar attack and special attack stats. I think there's only like a base 10 difference. I think it's base 110 and 100, or maybe it's 120 and 110. I don't quite remember. We're going to quickly jump into Smogon right quick and just do this. Dragapult. Dragapult, it's actually base 120 attack and 100 special attack. So 20 points difference, but I mean, with the Choice Specs boosting it up, I mean, that's definitely covering it. 2 of them just had Life Orb as well, which is interesting. So, yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. And I'm also just noticing, if we do our count right here, that accounts for all 47 of them new Dragon Darts. So even one of the Specs ones very well could have had, one of the Specs ones had to have had Dragon Darts, which, I mean, maybe for the spread coverage, because the number's not quite adding up there. 47 out of 48 of them new Dragon Darts, but I mean, hey, having that spread option, it definitely makes sense. 45 of them new U-turn to pivot out, which, you know what, being able to hit fast and break a sash is great. Phantom Force, being able to give Dragapult itself some pseudo invulnerability is definitely handy. 22 of them having Outrage. Yeah, if you just want to get something off the field and do some massive damage, especially with that Choice Band, definitely makes sense. Especially if you have a Blaziken. Let's see, are you going to pop up anytime soon? No. Oh, there we go. 2.2% on the teams did have a Blaziken. So, like, Blaziken coaching into Dragapult, especially a speed boosted Blaziken, and then Dragapult turning around and doing Outrage, like, that's huge. Terra Blast for 20 of them makes a lot of sense. If Dragapult was terrestrialized and it did have higher physical attack, it would be a physical Terra Blast. And if it had higher special attack, like, it'd be a special Terra Blast. So that could be definitely spicy, even if you, say, had more of a mixed set on Dragapult and one for a coaching boost to turn it from a special to a physical, like, just kind of spitballing there. And then we do see a couple of Draco Meteors and Shadow Ball for special coverage, which I can definitely see the 2 of the spec sets having that. Sucker Punch, great for the priority right there. Fire Blast just to go Scorched Earth. I mean, yeah. Fire Blast on a Specs could definitely be a lot of damage. 2 protects. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that's the 2 Life Orb Dragon Bolts and 1 Dragon Claw. So, oh, and hey, and we have Flamethrower there as well. But yeah, I want to just go out on a limb and say the 2 protects are definitely on the Life Orb sets. As far as Terra go, 26 Dragon makes a lot of sense. Choice Banded Dragon Darts or Choice Banded Outrage, they definitely hurt. Ghost would definitely hurt with Phantom Force. Fairy for Dragon Immunity is huge. Being able to drop your weakness to dark and turn it into a resistance is wild. It should also be to be expected too. Fire, Steel, Stellar, only one of each of those, and Fire giving it stab with either Flamethrower or Fire Blast could be huge. Stellar for a one-time boosted damage, that could be big. I'm hoping the Stellar was on the Life Orb set so that it could pivot its moves. But I mean, even with U-turn, it wouldn't be bad on a choice item set. I like Stellar on choice item sets, but I like the idea of being able to just choose between the moves a little bit more freely. So yeah, there is that. And then as far as the abilities went, we saw 47 out of 48 of them with clear body, which makes sense. Protected from Intimidate. But the one Infiltrator's fascinating because that does allow it to get past Substitute as well as screens. So I mean, if you're worried about screens, like say Grimstar or Klefki or any other screens user, it makes a lot of sense to have that Infiltrator. So that's the top 25 that were used in Frankfurt. Let's get into some of the Pokemon that I thought that kind of stood out outside of the top 25. And we're going to start off by going to number 52, which was Hisuian Zoroark. We see this in normal Ghost as such a wild combo. You have 3 different immunities, one of which being normal, protects you from Fake Out, which is great. Stab, Hyper Voice, and Shadow Ball are nothing to scoff at, especially coming off a Choice Specs boost. Bitter Malice is interesting because it's a built-in debuff, which I think was to attack. I think it's basically the reverse of Spirit Break. I think it's like an attack debuff, which is saying something because I covered Hisuian Zoroark in the past for a discussion video, and I'm just blanking on it now. But either way, Bitter Malice having its guaranteed debuff is nice. Nasty Plot Hisuian Zoroark could be very easy to set up, especially with Fake Out support, say Incineroar, Rillaboom, Sneasler, redirection support like Electabuzz and Volcarona. It can get very easy set up, especially since you don't know it's Hisuian Zoroark on the field right away thanks to Illusion. So you get that Nasty Plot off, and then you have that spread Hyper Voice or single target Shadow Ball. You're doing a lot of damage. And then you also have Speed Control and Icy Wind as well. So you do have that. If you wanted to nuke something, you got that Hyper Beam. We got Flamethrower for a little bit of fire coverage to hit King Gambit specifically, seeing as King Gambit's dual typing allows it to hard wall Hisuian Zoroark's 2 stabs. So you do have that Flamethrower, or I'm pretty sure I saw Focus Blast somewhere. Yeah, directly underneath Flamethrower. But yeah, between Flamethrower and Focus Blast, you can hit King Gambit pretty hard. You could also threaten Ursaluna with the Focus Blast, especially Ursaluna Blood Moon, because that is another thing that can threaten Zoroark, where Ursaluna Blood Moon's Mind's Eye ability does allow it to hit Ghost types with normal and fighting type attacks. So being able to just nail that thing could be great. You could also trick your specs onto an Incineroar or even base Ursaluna. That could be nice. Giving specs to King Gambit could be funny. These are all just Pokemon. I know these are all Pokemon that were showing up as the teammates, but I mean they're all Pokemon that could potentially threaten the Zoroark as well. So yeah, that could be funny. Even giving it to a Basculegion, like a male Basculegion, could be great. And then moving on, the last move there we saw was Will-O-Wisp, which is great for dealing with physical attackers. As far as our Terra options go, we see 5 Stellar, 3 Fighting, which honestly, the Fighting makes sense because then you can have a base 80 power Fighting Terra Blast, and then that way too, you don't have to worry about playing with accuracy with Focus Blast. So you do have that. Stellar makes sense since it's a little bit of the best of both worlds. You get that a one-time boost to both of your stab options. You could go Terra Ghost to have a stronger Shadow Ball or Bitter Malice. You can go for the normal for the stronger Hyper Voice. So yeah, I think those are all great options for Terra. The Steel Terra is interesting as well. I'm not really sure if I'm seeing the sauce on this, but Let me know down in the comments what Steel Terra would probably do on Hisuian Zoroark. Moving on, next on our list, we actually have number 61, Frostmoth. Frostmoth is wild. Where do I even begin with Frostmoth? It's a bug ice type Pokemon. We saw 6 of them here at the tournament, and all 6 of them happen to know Quiver Dance, which is a interesting thing because when it comes to Frostmoth, it's got a unique ability in the Ice Scales ability, and while it is a moth like Volcarona, it is a significantly slower Pokemon, and it's a Pokemon that I don't normally see a whole lot of, but just to pop up into Smogon for a brief moment, Frostmoth, as far as its stats go, it's got 70 HP, 65 attack, 60 defense, 125 special attack, 90 special defense, and 65 speed. Now, the 65 speed is fairly notable because it's faster than Incineroar, and I think that actually matches Pelipper. Like, we'll just quickly bring that up right quick. Yeah, it actually matches Pelipper as far as speed goes. Now, Frostmoth, very weird typing in Ice Bug, 4 times weaknesses to Fire and Rock, regular weakness to Flying and Steel while resisting Grass, Ground, and Ice. And what we saw here as far as this goes for Frankfurt, we saw 6 of them knowing Quiver Dance, which means Frostmoth, while it's not necessarily getting the fastest after 1 Quiver Dance boost, it is getting into an interesting speed tier at +1 speed, and its special attack and special defense getting boosted are what's actually the more notable thing about the Quiver Dance set, since Ice Skills naturally reduces the amount of damage Frostmoth takes from special attacks to begin with, and while its base typing is less than stellar, using Terastallization to change it around into a more defensive type, such as Water, means that Frostmoth is now getting scarily bulky on the specially defensive side. And what we saw for a couple of the different moves here on Frostmoth was we saw the Quiver Dance, obviously, but we also saw Spread Blizzard with 5 out of the 6 potential Frostmoths knowing that. We saw 5 of them knowing Protect, 5 with Terra Blast, which, I mean, having a stab water type special attack to punish fire and rock type Pokemon is pretty notable, especially since this thing naturally outspeeds Incineroar. And I'm willing to reckon that by getting that special attack boost, it's going to do a lot of damage to a non-terastallized Incineroar while also being able to potentially threaten the likes of Magmar. And if it's a Terra Grass Magmar that's not worried about Spore and Rage Powder, well, you got Ice-type Stab and Blizzard as well, which can be less than pleasant. Now, we did see 1 Frostmoth running Bug Buzz, while also seeing Icy Wind and Tailwind. And, you know, not only can Frostmoth make itself get faster with the Quiver Dance, but it could also just opt for the Tailwind to support its teammates while hiding behind Aurora Veil from Alolan Ninetales. And as far as partners go, as far as we saw with Frostmoth, we saw every single Frostmoth have an Incineroar and a Alolan Ninetales on the teams, which, you know, makes sense. You have great Fake Out and pivoting support from Incin. We have Aurora Veil support with Ninetales. We have the Blizzard support. We have Encore to basically lock something into a setup move if they think they're safe to set up in front of Frostmoth. And then as far as the rest of the partners go, it kind of spreads out a little bit. We saw quite a bit of Rillaboom. We saw the odd Garchomp and the odd Dragonite. We even saw Volcarona, so we did have double Moth at one point, which honestly, Volcarona going Rage Powder and then Frostmoth actually turning into the threat with Quiver Dance is kind of a wild idea here. But I could see that, especially since Volcarona having the Flame Body ability, being able to redirect away something, specifically a physical attack, and potentially getting burned. That's not great for an opposing physical attacker, that's for sure. We also see regular physical Ursaluna, which, I mean, because Frostmoth is so slow, even if there was a potential Trick Room Mon, like, I don't see any here in the team, but I mean, hypothetically, if there was Trick Room there, like Frostmoth could take advantage of that. But I mean, in this case, Frostmoth is actually turning on the speed for Ursaluna, so maybe this is a more faster Ursaluna spread, and now Ursaluna's just running wild outside of Trick Room, just nailing things with Headlong Rush and Guts Boosted Facade. We even saw Basque Legion as a potential team member for Frostmoth, which I mean, with a water-based setup, I mean that could be an interesting thing. Like maybe Basque Legion could have been like anti rain tech, so that maybe Basque Legion just hits the field, and then that way it could just take advantage of Swift Swim if an opponent set it, or even if it's just running a Scarf variant with Last Respects. Like that could definitely be a thing that we might see too. Like adaptability, Choice Scarf, Basque Legion with Stab, Last Respects, especially if there's a couple of casualties on the team at that point, that could be really scary for cleaning up opponents. We also see Golden Go and Sneasler, and the interesting thing here too is Golden Go is one of those Pokemon that kind of has middling speed. And when it's not running a Choice Scarf, it definitely loves having either Tailwind or Icy Wind speed control working in its favor. So we might even hypothetically be seeing Frostmoth going Terra Water to resist Make It Rain from opposing Golden Go, maybe a Protect variant on Golden Go, and then Icy Wind coming out of Frostmoth to ensure that its partner Golden Go is now able to win a speed tie, and now we see a Stab Shadow Ball go into an opposing Golden Go. And similarly enough, we might even see the same idea for a Basque Legion coming in. If it's not a Scarf variant, maybe it's a Life Orb. Now we can see Wave Crash or Last Respects coming out and potentially taking out something significantly faster than it. So I think I can kind of see the sauce here. And as far as the items go, 5 out of 6 of them had leftovers, while the 6th one had Covert Cloak. And the Covert Cloak is definitely a big thing because it does protect Frostball from the secondary effects of moves, while also, and most notably, keeping it safe from fake out. So like Incineroar can't even fake it out. Frostmoth can go Terra Water, set itself up with Quiver Dance, and now it can potentially apply some pressure, whether it be with a coverage damage option or even just now slowing down the opponent's field with a now +1 boosted special attack, Icy Wind. So I think Frostmoth is definitely a really spicy thing that we saw, and I wouldn't be opposed to looking into it more myself in the future for Regulation H. Now, some more Pokemon that I thought were spicy. We're going to dive right down to number 72, Slaking. We saw 4 of these, and 3 out of 4 of them had Choice Band, while 1 out of 4 had a Life Orb. So people were definitely looking to do massive damage with this thing. And interestingly enough, as far as teammates go, we only see Weezing 50% of the time. But then again, we also see Galarian Weezing the other 50% of the time. So obviously, we're seeing neutralizing gas come into play to shut off Slaking's Truant. And a few other partner Pokemon we do see Sneasler, we see Garchomp. You know, pretty strong options right there. I mean, Garchomp can easily set itself up with a Swords Dance, maybe go for a Scale Shot. Sneasler can come in, apply Fago Pressure, play the Dire Claw Roulette. We see Kilowattrel as well, which Kilowattrel just being a natural good lead into an Intimidate Mon, such as Incineroar, because competitive will give it a +2 special attack boost. Like Kilowattrel can come in, maybe have a Focus Sash, maybe have Terra Ghost, go for Tailwind, and then now Slaking is ready to do some massive damage, especially if Kilowattrel had Volt Switch and then it could just switch itself out and then bring in Weezing, and then Slaking just doesn't have to worry about Truant kicking in and then just going for some massive damage. And speaking of massive damage, we see all 4 of them knowing Double Edge. So we got a great Stab normal option, which I believe Double Edge is base 120 physical power. So coming off of a Choice Band or even a Life Orb, that's going to do a lot of damage to things. And not a whole lot of Pokemon outright resist normal. Like Rock and Steel are pretty much it. Ghost is immune to it, of course, but Anything that's neutral to that double edge is certainly not appreciating a double edge unless they have some kind of defensive investment going on, whether it be a reflect, a roar veil, or even just like a straight up defense boost. None of them are loving that double edge coming off. And speaking of steel and rock, well, 3 out of 4 of these Slaking have high horsepower just to get around that, which none of those Pokemon are going to love having that bonus coverage coming from Slaking. Similarly enough, too, we also see 3 different Slakings with knockoff. So there's your Ghosts covered, so you don't have to worry about the Ghosties just laughing in the face of Double Edge. Slaking can turn around and just slap them with a knockoff, remove their item, and just do extra bonus damage from removing said item. And then on top of that, too, we also have two different Sucker Punches. So Slaking has a little bit of priority, or it has the spread option in Earthquake. And then that way, too, because high horsepower is not completely accurate, Slaking can go around, get around that, and go for the Earthquake to do some big damage. And then that way, too, if you're worried about redirection, well, now Slaking doesn't have to care about that because it now has that spread option to hit both sides of the field, so long as there's no wide guard. But a very interesting tech on the Slaking is Giga Impact. It's harder hitting than Double Edge, and while it does cost Slaking a turn to recharge, it's not the worst thing out there since Slaking is naturally going to miss every second turn because of Truant anyway, so, I mean, if you don't have your Wheezing anymore, you could just go for the Hail Mary, go for the Giga Impact, and just nail something for some massive damage, or vice versa. If and this is specifically for a Pokemon that thinks they're safe from Slaking loafing around, Wheezing could switch in, shut off Truant, and then Slaking could turn around and go for a massive Giga Impact. And then that way too, like Slaking could just do the big damage and you know what? Just make something have a little worse of a day. Yeah. As far as the other moves go, well, all we have left is Protect. And, you know, an interesting thing as far as the rest of the team options go, like, we do see Dondozo Tatsugiri, so, like, Dondozo's a fairly bulky Pokemon itself. Maybe we see Slaking, Wheezing in the lead, and then Dozo Tatsu in the back. Maybe Slaking goes down, Dozo comes in, or even if Slaking has to switch out, Dozo comes in, and then Tatsugiri can just kind of switch in. And then that way, too, it can give the Dondozo the +2 boosts from Commander. So maybe you might see something like that. On the flip side, too, maybe because Slaking is a normal type Pokemon and you're worried about fighting type coverage, specifically, say, something like Sneasler or Annihilate, you could just switch in Golden Go, dodge a close combat or even a Dire Claw in Sneasler's case because Golden Go is naturally immune to both fighting and poison type attacks. Golden Go comes in relatively safe, goes for some damage, and then maybe pivots out with some switch plays. So maybe something like this. Now, Mamoswine is an interesting option since Mamoswine, it's a hard-hitting physical attacker, and seeing as we did see 3 of these Slakings with choice banned, maybe we might be seeing Loaded Dice, Icicle Spear on Mamoswine. Mamoswine does get the Oblivious ability, so it's immune to Intimidate drops, so maybe the Mamoswine is coming in as some anti-Incineroar tech right there. Mamoswine can use high horsepower or Earthquake itself. It can go for Ice Shard for a little bit of priority, and even Trailblaze on Mamoswine, like giving Mamoswine a little bit of speed can make that thing terrifying. Like, imagine Mamoswine comes in, gets a speed boost, it has a Loaded Dice, and now it has an accurate stab base 100 ice type attack that is coming off a faster speed stat now because of Trailblaze. Like, Mamoswine might be able to clean up things, and then that way too, maybe there's some dragons on the field that Slaking doesn't necessarily want to deal with. Maybe specifically there's Dragapult and you're not running the Sucker Punch variant. Well, maybe Mamoswine is coming in here and hitting the Icicle Spear into the Dragapult, getting that off the field, and then Slaking and Weezing can come in, and then they can just kind of clean up from there. Now, some other Pokemon we do see as partners for this thing, we see Talonflame, which, you know, priority Talon because of Gale Wings, that makes sense. Will-O-Wisp support for dealing against physical attackers, that's also handy, especially too when you factor in that Slaking actually has a fairly respectable defense stat. Like we'll pull Frostmoth out of here and we'll just put Slaking in. Slaking's got a base 100 defense along with a base 150 HP. Like that's bulk right there. It's also got a 160 attack, so really Slaking's doing a lot of damage. It's also base 100 speed, so it's surprisingly nimble. And while it's only got 65 base special defense, that 150 HP kind of carries it just a smidge more. So that was weird, but okay. Anyways, all right. Well, that aired out. But anyways, point is, Slaking could definitely be really scary with that priority tailwind support, since it's already got the speed. It can have the Will-O-Wisp support from Talonflame as well, and then it can kind of just shrug off physical hits. And yeah, that's nasty. But you know what else is nasty? The fact that it's also got Mail and DD to set Psychic Terrain and now threaten opponents on the specially defensive side with that spread stab expanding force, while Slaking can threaten on the physical side. And having that priority be negated is great. So now you don't have to worry about a revenge killer with extreme speed, or maybe even Aqua Jet for that matter. You don't have to worry about fake out at all, so you don't have to worry about committing your Terra to Slaking. But even if you did have to commit your Terra, like, and because Psychic Terrain isn't on your team, well, you do have Terra Ghost on all four of these Slakings that showed up. So all four of them were prepared to eat a fake out, or rather dodge a fake out, and just clap back with a strong hitting boosted move, whether it's the Choice Band or the Life Orb. So props to you, Slaking. Glad to see you making the rounds here. And now let's scroll down just a little bit. We got Ribombee. Ribombee is an interesting Pokemon here. It's a faster fairy Pokemon, and it has the ability to heal bulkier partners with Pollen Puff. It has Tailwind to support the team with speed, and there's not really a whole lot to say. All four of them had Terra Flying. All four of them knew Moonblast, Pollen Puff, Protect, and Tailwind. All four of them had a Focus Sash, and they all had Shield Dust. So you know what? Fair enough. And Shield Dust, to my knowledge, protects the Pokemon from secondary effects. So let's just take a quick look. Ribombee here, Shield Dust. The Pokemon is not affected by the secondary effect of another Pokemon's attack. So, you know, you got a built-in Covert Cloak right there. So you can dodge some fake outs right there, and Ribombee just being able to take advantage of its speed, since it is a base 124 speed Pokemon. It can set up that Tailwind relatively quickly. As I said, it can heal up bulky partners, say Ursaluna, Incineroar, Porygon 2. And interestingly enough, most of the partners overlap with all these Ribombees. We see all of them having Golden Go, Ursaluna, Incineroar, and Porygon 2. And then we see a little bit of a divergence with Annihilate and Amoonguss. And Amoonguss could also heal up other Pokemon with its own Pollen Puff. And really, if Ribombee wanted to and was desperate enough, like, it could technically go for a Moonblast into a Terrafire Annihilate just for the extra Rage Fist bonus. So, I mean, if you were really desperate, you could technically do that, but I mean, you're probably best off just going for your Tailwind support, and then that way too, you just don't have to worry about that. And you can have the Pollen Puff. Now, one thing that I'm kind of curious about, though, is the fact that it had Terra Flying as its Terra type for all four of them. I don't really know why Terra Flying, but I mean, sure, I can see it. I mean, you are becoming immune to ground type attacks, maybe, so you do have that. You're still resistant to grass type attacks. You're resistant to fighting type attacks, so maybe it's just to make some fighting type Pokemon just have a little bit of a worse day at that point. But I would love to hear from you guys if you have some insight as to why Terra flying on Rabombi? Definitely let me know in the comments below. And then as far as our fifth and final spicy pick, Weavile. I think Weavile is an awesome Pokemon to see because ever since Sneasler became a thing, we haven't really seen much of the OG Johto variant Sneasel evolution here. And Weavile, it's fast. It's got great fake out support. It can do some great damage with knockoff. It has access to beat up so that it can go for beat up to either set up an Annihilate and a Archaludon. And when we look at our partner Pokemon, all four of the Weavile that showed up all had Annihilate as a partner, so it definitely makes sense. And an interesting way of getting around beat up if you're worried about the amount of hits you're going to take is you do have Triple Axle. And while Triple Axle is primarily more of a offensive play, if you think about it, beat up only hits as many times for as many healthy partner Pokemon you have left. So if you're just down to Weavile and Annihilate, you could technically go for the Hail Mary, go for the Triple Axle into a Terra Fire or a Terra Steel Annihilate, or basically anything that resists ice, and maybe land all three hits into Annihilate, and now you have a 200 Rage Fist. On the flip side, though, Triple Axle is not guaranteed to land all three hits, so you might only go up the once, but I mean, you could try it. I don't see why not to do it if you're in a sticky situation and you really need that explosive power. So maybe you do that. Now, as far as some other teammates go, we do see our Archaludon as well. So, like, in theory, while it wouldn't be the greatest of things, you could technically do that to a neutral Archaludon, and whereas Archaludon does get a stamina boost each time it does take a hit, I mean, you would be doing a little less damage with each consecutive Triple Axle. So, like, by the time you think about it, like, Triple Axle starts off pretty weak. I think it's like base 20 for the first hit, goes up to 40 for the second, and then 60 for the third. With the initial one, you would get that first defense boost. That would probably mitigate the jump from first Triple Axle to the second. And by the time you get that second defense boost, you're probably mitigating the jump from the second to third. So getting up to +3 on our Archaludon might be a unique way with Triple Axle, or it might be a unique way with Triple Axle to get up to +3 on our Archaludon, but I don't necessarily know. But getting back to what Weavile has, outside of the beat up, knockoff, and Triple Axle, we do see two of them having fake out, which, I mean, hey, Weavile is reliant on its speed, and being able to outspeed other fake out mons is huge. Like, Weavile has a speed stat of 125, which actually does outspeed Sneasler by 5 points. So if you're worried about a Sneasler potentially going for fake out, you could potentially fake that thing out with Weavile instead, especially if it's not a Terra Ghost Sneasler. And if it's a Focus Sash Sneasler, you could break that sash, and then Weavile's partner could just finish it off. Like, you could have that. I mean, another thing too is, like, if you're worried about a fast Focus Sash Mon that has a little bit of priority of its own, like, you do have that fake out, and you can just break the Focus Sash with the +3 priority, and then similarly enough to what I was just saying about Sneasler, maybe Weavile's partner can just come in with a big hit. Like, maybe you have Ursaluna Blood Moon, which is a partner Pokemon that showed up with one of these for Weavile. You go for the fake out, break a sash, and then Ursaluna turns around and goes for a Terra Normal Blood Moon into them. Like, that's huge. It's also disgusting. We also saw two Weaviles knowing Protect. So we do have the two Protects right there. And we do have one with some speed control in Icy Wind. So very interesting options to see with the Weaviles. And then as far as Terra types go, we saw 3 of them with Terra Ghost to dodge fake out of their own. And then we also have that one Terra Stellar. And on the note about the 3 Terra Ghost, it does make sense maybe you just want to fake out a fake out Mon's partner. And then with that one Terra Stellar Weavile, that Weavile is just saying, I'm going for damage. I'm going for triple axle. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I'm going to have that double stab for the first hit and go for big damage with the triple axle, or even just the knockoff. Like, being able to just do so much damage with a boosted knockoff, especially with the added modifier when knockoff removes the item, like, that's certainly not a bad thing at the end of the day. And then as far as abilities go on the Weavile, we see two of them knowing Pickpocket, and we see two of them having Pressure. And the Pickpocket is interesting because if Weavile took a massive hit of its own, which is fairly realistic because this thing does have paper thin defenses, if Weavile ended up having its sash broken, it now has no item. If it steals an item from an opponent and then faints, well, now your opponent's down an item. So that's a nice little bit of tech there. But then on the flip side, there are some heavy hitting moves, Make It Rain, that don't like having their PP reduced more than one per turn. So Weavile can have that pressure there and then just force opponents to lose their power points. And really, having Golden Go lose access to that powerful spread Make It Rain is nice. And because Make It Rain is a spread move to begin with, well, we've all taken that hit initially. That's 2 PP right there. If the opponent goes for another Make It Rain on the next turn, well, now there's 4 of them gone. There's half of your Make It Rain's just gone. And then alternatively, if you're playing against Ursaluna Blood Moon and you either switch into a Blood Moon, there's 2 PP gone. Or if your opponent just actively targets you with a Blood Moon, well, there's 2 PP gone there as well. So Weavile can certainly whittle down power points for those hard-hitting moves that are very limited in usage. So certainly not the end of the world there. And, having knockoff to remove an Eviolite from Electabuzz, Magmar, Porygon 2, that's certainly great because now the Eviolite is gone. Weavile's got a fairly respectable attack stat. Like, Weavile has a base 120 attack, so, like, it can do some serious damage to stuff, especially pre-evolved Pokemon that rely on that Eviolite for the extra defensive bulk right there. So I definitely think Weavile is a spicy option, and I think like the other 5 Pokemon that we talked about that were outside of the top 25 for Frankfurt with Hisuian Zoroark, Frostmoth, Slaking, Ribombee, and Weavile itself, I think all of them are unique Pokemon, and I would certainly like to see more of them in the future at events. So now we've got the top 25 from Monterrey with some 5 spicy Pokemon. We've got the top 25 from Frankfurt with 5 spicy Pokemon. Let's look at some team breakdowns from the top 8 of both of these regionals. All right, so kicking off our top 8 Pokemon teams for Monterrey, we have Stefan Mont, our grand champion, going with a record of 14-1, running Alolan Ninetales, Garganacl, Golden Go, Sylveon, Incineroar, and Cypher. Yeah, we have Cypher here, which honestly a lot of people online have been hyping up, but the Assault Vested Incineroar and the Maranga Berry Garganacl should not be dismissed either. Honestly, I think these are some wild Pokemon to certainly see. So what we see here for the team, we have Choice Scarf, Golden Go, Throat Spray, Sylveon with Yawn Support and Hyper Voice. We have Assault Vested Incineroar looking to do some damage. We have Eviolite Cypher with Dual Wing Beat, Close Combat, and U-Turn. We also have Alolan Ninetales with some screen support in Aurora Veil. And then we have Maranga Berry Garganacl. Now, show of hands, how many of you remember what a Maranga Berry does? And on that note, let's talk about that first. So Garganacl has some great staying power with the Maranga Berry here because it gives itself a special defense boost after getting hit with a special attack. Garganacl has great bulky stats between its HP, defense, and special defense. And the Maranga Berry is awesome since it doesn't have to rely on Psychic Terrain to activate itself like a Psychic Seed. And it allows Garganacl to have access to status moves, which is definitely important seeing as this thing has three different status moves, one of which being protect and another one being recover. So Garganackle can just kind of stall things down with the Salt Cure, and it can quickly wear down steel and water type Pokemon that have either not terastallized or Pokemon that terastallized into one of those two typings, while Salt Cure can still whittle down non-water and steel, just not quite as fast. So Garganackle can just sit on the field, get that special defense boost from the Moringa Berry, and then recover up its HP and just kind of stall out the residual chip damage with Protect. And because water type and steel type Pokemon take more residual damage from the Salt Cure, it's not going to take long for them to faint. So Garganackle will sit on the field, maybe even go Terra flying so that it doesn't have to worry about its water or steel weaknesses, and then just start going for the Salt Cure and just watching the mayhem ensue. And on top of that, the Alolan Ninetales has some extra bulk to provide the team and Garganackle with Auroraville. And when you factor in that Garganackle has Purifying Salt to protect itself from status conditions. I don't know why that was so hard to get out of me, but to protect itself from status conditions right there, Garganackle is getting very, very scary with that extra bulk with the Auroraville and the Moringa Berry while being able to recover off its being able to recover away the damage that is done to it. And then we have Cypher, which Cypher is just a great fit for this team here because it threatens a lot of fighting type Pokemon, especially Annihilape and Sneasler. It threatens grass type Pokemon such as Rillaboom. It also threatens any steel type Pokemon that thinks it's safe to wall out the flying or U-turn stab options because it's got close combat. So goodbye, Kingambit. It was not nice knowing you. So yeah, Cypher basically comes in and shows that it's the sharper weapon than the Gambit and just nails it for a close combat or, any other steel type Pokemon that is not named Golden Go. So really, Cypher can come in and do some massive damage. And speaking of Golden Go, Incineroar's got you covered right there because it's got Flare Blitz and Knockoff. So two moves that are super effective against Golden Go's base typing. And if Golden Go terastallizes into a water type, well, now it's Cypher bait. Yeah, I love that. And, on the note of Annihilape, if you're running more HP and special defense investment, well, Cypher's naturally faster than you. Dual Wing Beat, it doesn't matter how much of a Rage Fist boost it gives you, it's knocking you out. If you look at Annihilape with heavy special defense and HP investment with no physical defense investment, a neutral nature Technician Cypher is just nailing Annihilape for some massive damage with the dual wing beat. I think it's something along the lines of a minimum of 80% into a non-terastallized Annihilape with 240 HP and 252 special defense. So yeah, Annihilape is not loving that at the end of the day. Sneasler has even less defenses than Annihilape, so it's certainly not loving that. Rillaboom, again, doesn't really love that. And if Cypher's in a bad position where it needs to pivot out, it can pivot out. It can pivot out thanks to U-turn and get in Incineroar for some Intimidate drops. Even if you wanted to get Sylveon back in so that you have Wish support. Overall, I am really digging this whole team. And then on top of that, you have Scarf Golden Go to do massive damage to stuff with either Spread Make It Rain or single target Shadow Ball and Power Gem. So you got your Flying type Pokemon and Flying Terra is covered with the Power Gem. And worst case scenario, you just trick away the Choice Scarf into something. And Incineroar getting a Scarf might not be the greatest thing because now it can't click Fake Out. It might be able to benefit from clicking Flare Blitz or Knockoff, but it can't click Fake Out unless it intends to immediately switch. Yeah, so yeah, you could do that. You can also Scarf away or trick away your Scarf into an Amoonguss or maybe even an Eviolite Pokemon. Just take that Eviolite away with Trick. And the best part too is as soon as you trick away your choice item, you can change between your moves. If you take something that's hot garbage for Golden Go, you can just trick it onto something else. So yeah, you can further disrupt your opponents that way, which is that is disgustingly evil. And looking at the wins and losses, or rather single loss for Stefan, like Stefan ended up having a lot of opponents that just really didn't have the greatest answer for either Garganackle or Cypher. Like if we look at the runner-up, Alexander Canseco, which I feel like I definitely got that wrong. I am so sorry. We got Rillaboom, we got Volcarona, which again, I didn't mention that while we had the paste up, but Volcarona's not something either that wants to see that dual wing beat. Like while it can potentially burn Cypher, Volcarona's taking massive damage from a single hit from the dual wing beat, and if it doesn't burn right away, well, that second one's going to come around and do massive damage too. We got Sneasler, we got Gambit, so like 4 out of 6 of the Pokemon, they did not love Cypher. Garganackle being able to Salt Cure away the Dragonite's HP, being able to hit the King Gambit for even more bonus damage. And on top of that, Salt Cure is a rock type attack, so there's 4 times super effective damage for Volcarona, a special attacker. Like between Garganackle and Cypher, like Stefan had a really good matchup into there. And we also see that there was a game played in round 14 with Justin Tang. Golden Go is definitely not in a good situation against Garganackle. The Hisuian Arcanine is not really loving the close combat off of Cypher. Rillaboom, Sneasler, same idea. Dragonite is kind of in a bit of a sticky situation with the Garganackle and that Salt Cure. Even the Ninetales and the Arcanine. We had round 13 Indeedee, Solomon's, Flamigo, Ursaluna, Archaludon, and Armarouge. I would have loved to see how that one would have boiled down, because that's a pretty tricky team to kind of go up against. Like you do have the Incineroar with the Assault Vest right there, so you aren't really taking any special damage from the Archaludon or the Armarouge, especially seeing as Armarouge can't hit Incineroar with the Psychic type Expanding Force. So Incineroar could come in and potentially punish that Armarouge. And another thing to note is the Incineroar is Terra Fire, so like Incineroar's got a pretty respectable attack stat to begin with, so like Incineroar's probably doing some decent damage to things with a Terra Fire boosted Flare Blitz. So yeah, I think this is really interesting looking at all the different teams that Stefan ended up playing up against, like Cypher, Garganackle. They definitely had some really good matchups here. Now, interestingly enough, round 8, we did see the one loss to Annihilate and Maushold, which, I mean, Maushold being able to set up Annihilate really quickly, that could definitely be not the most optimal thing to face, that's for sure. But yeah, like Basculegion as well coming in could easily make things nasty with adaptability boosted last respects. So I can certainly see that, but I think there was definitely some really interesting teams that were played against by Stefan. And now looking at the runner-up, we do have that Sneasler, we have Dragonite, Volcarona, Electabuzz, Kingambit, and Rillaboom. So like these are a really strong combination of Pokemon. Very good for balance because you got the pivoting with Rillaboom. We have Fake Out support with Rillaboom. We potentially have it with Sneasler. We'll jump into the paste momentarily. We got the redirection option with Volcarona and Electabuzz. And then we got Dragonite to do some big damage. So like there's a good blend of power and support amongst all 6 of these Pokemon right here. And I find that is a potentially scary combination, and we had 12 wins and 3 losses for this particular team. Jumping into the paste here, we see Assault Vested Rillaboom with Terra Fire, and instead of U-turn, we actually have high horsepower for ground type coverage into Pokemon, say Archaludon and opposing Kingambit. We also have a means of hitting Incineroar, seeing as Incineroar just kind of laughs in the face of Double Grass and U-turn. So having that high horsepower is nice to see. We see Black Glasses on the Kingambit, so Kowtow, Cleave, and Sucker Punch are going to do massive damage, especially after seeing a Defiant or Swords Dance boost. We have Terra Dragon, Eviolite, Vital Spirit, Electabuzz with Follow Me. Taunt can shut down status moves, especially important status moves such as Trick Room or, opposing Follow Me from other redirectors. We have Thunderbolt for a little bit of damage. And we got Volcarona here with a Covert Cloak, so it's going to be naturally safe from the likes of Fake Out, Quiver Dance, Terra Blast, and Heat Wave. Fairly standard stuff for Volcarona for offensive build, so we don't actually have the supportive element with it. We have a more offensive element. We have Dragonite here with the multi-scale set with Terra Steel, Scale Shot, Extreme Speed, Haze, and Protect, which Scale Shot will certainly give Dragonite the speed in case it needs to rush ahead of something to go for a Haze just to kind of get away from opponents boosting up their stats. And then we do have Coaching on Sneasler. No Protect at all, and interestingly enough, it's actually Poison Touch for the ability. We have Terra Stellar to boost up Dire Claw and Close Combat. We have Fake Out support, and then we have Coaching. Now, the peculiar thing here is it's Terra Stellar versus Terra Ghost, because while Sneasler can't Protect, it definitely doesn't love getting a Fake Out into itself. So I'm kind of curious to see how the maneuvering went for Sneasler. Maybe we did see a little bit of Follow Me out of Electabuzz when Sneasler was looking to do some damage. But getting Coaching off into Dragonite is extremely scary, since it does have that extreme speed option and the Scale Shot and loaded dice. Like, after getting a +1 to Dragonite's attack, like, Dragonite's doing a lot of damage. And then, as I mentioned, we also have the King Gambit and the Rillaboom. Like, King Gambit is a scary Pokemon to get both an attack and defense boost into. Rillaboom, especially with the Assault Vest, getting a coaching boost, that's also quite a bit intimidating, especially since there's no U-turn. So, like, if Rillaboom wanted to pivot out, it would have to hard switch, meaning it could rely on the coaching boost for extra damage on that Woodhammer and high horsepower. And even having 5 turns of priority with Grassy Glide, like, I mean, having that on top of a coaching boost, like, yeah, that is pretty scary, that's for sure. And as I mentioned too, Alexander ended up having 12 wins and 3 losses. And we did go over the game pairing with Stefan Mott, but as far as Alexander's games go, like, we see Tyranitar, which is certainly not appreciating a boosted Rillaboom. Neither is that Ursaluna Blood Moon. King Gambit can threaten the Sinistcha, and even Sucker Punch can threaten the Annihilate, especially with a Swords Dance or Coaching boost into the Gambit. Klefki is interesting because Klefki could potentially set up the Misty Terrain, but that's not really going to help too much against Alexander's team, since Alexander doesn't really have much in way of status. I mean, there is the potential Flame Body burn off the Volcarona, but I mean, if Klefki did have Misty Surge, that could be one way of kind of like disrupting Rillaboom a little bit. So overall, I feel like Alexander's team was pretty good into Jonathan's team here. We do see William Brown for round 13 running a rain team with Greninja and Annihilate, which that definitely screams Water Shuriken into either Rage Fist boosts or Stamina boosts, which honestly, definitely great to see, but Volcarona being able to just Quiver Dance and Terra Blast to do big damage, Electabuzz being able to redirect away Water Shuriken is definitely scary. And honestly, even just the Thunderbolt Electabuzz would be wild, since Greninja's not the bulkiest Pokemon to begin with. Pelipper's 4 times a week to it, and Basculegion doesn't really love it either. So I feel like Electabuzz might have actually got to see a little bit more offensive play in that game. The other thing too is, like, we also have the Sneasler. So, like, the Sneasler can threaten the Archaludon. Like, if it goes Terra Stellar and the Archaludon, say if it's Terra Grass, I mean, Archaludon's not going to love the Dire Claw, and if it doesn't Terastallize, it's not going to love the Close Combat. That's massive damage. Sinistcha is also neutral to Dire Claw, so it definitely doesn't love that, and Annihilate is certainly not enjoying it either. So yeah, I could definitely see that. And now let's take a look and see where the other losses happen. We have one in round 5 and one in round 7. And, Looking at Luke Bauer's team, we have double terrain, which is interesting. We definitely have the hard trick room mode with Torkoal, Ursaluna, Hatterene, and Indeedee, which, that can be very nasty if you're not prepared for Psy Spam and then Trick Room Eruption. And plus, Charizard in the sun should not be underestimated at all because that thing just hits like an absolute truck. Um, Weather Ball, some boosted Weather Ball coming off of Specs or Life Orb with solar power, that just deletes stuff. Like, even resisted hits don't love it in the sun. And then there's also the Rillaboom there, too. So, like, that Rillaboom maybe being able to pivot out with U-turn or even just having the Fake Out support, like, that could be particularly nasty. And then in round 5, the other loss here, we do see Dozu Tatsugiri, which can be always unfortunate to deal with if you don't have a means of getting around the Unaware combined with the stat boost. So if you don't have your Haze or your Clear Smog, that could be a little bit problematic, especially since the Ninetales is there to give the Aurora Veil. So I can see how I can see that being nasty. And plus, there's also Annihilate. And while we don't necessarily see potential setup, there might be a Bullet Seed on that Rillaboom. And if there's a Bullet Seed on that Rillaboom, and Annihilate goes Terrafire, yeah, that could be gross too. So yeah, overall, I think our runner-up had some really good-looking matchups. Just kind of scrolling through the roster there. Let's move on to Justin Tang, number 3. We've got Alolan Ninetales, Sneasler, Goldengo, Rillaboom, Dragonite, and Hisuian Arcanine. So we've got a lot of strong Pokemon right there, that's for sure. And let's bring up the paste. Okay, you love to see it. We have Grassy Seed, Nasty Plot, Goldengo. And honestly, I ran Grassy Seed in the GC and I really liked it. Like, Goldengo is deceptively bulky with that Ghost Steel typing paired with Terra Water and a +1 defense boost. Getting Rillaboom's Grassy Surge up and giving Goldengo that +1 defense makes it especially diabolical. So I definitely like seeing that for sure. We have Assault Vested Rillaboom with Drum Beating. Hello, we have Rillaboom's signature move coming in with some speed control with Drum Beating. We have high horsepower for some ground type coverage, and then we have Grassy Glide, which is great because even if Rillaboom's on the field and the grassy terrain wears off, it doesn't really matter if it's got a few drum beatings into the opponents because, like, Rillaboom's going to end up outspeeding. It doesn't really need to worry about losing that priority in Grassy Glide. And then it's also got the high horsepower, but also notably, the fact that it has the means of slowing things down for Goldengo with Drum Beating is nice, since Goldengo can then just outspeed them and do massive damage with a Nasty Plot boosted Make It Rain. As far as the Alolan Ninetales go, we have Terra Ghost to dodge Fake Out. We have Blizzard and Icy Wind. So we have some good, strong spread coverage in Blizzard. We have some spread speed control in Icy Wind. We have Encore, and we have Aurora Veil to provide some bulk for the team. We have Hisuian Arcanine with a Clear Amulet to protect itself from Intimidate drops. We also have Intimidate itself to lower other Pokemon's attack stats. We have Rock Slide, Flare Blitz, Extreme Speed. Hisuian Arcanine can hit like a truck, and while it doesn't love having that 4 times ground or 4 times water weakness, being able to go Terra Water and just kind of shrug those off is relatively nice. It'll become neutral to ground while now becoming resistant to water. And it's got that spread Rock Slide. It's got the Flare Blitz if it just needs to nail a grass type. And it's got Extreme Speed to come in and revenge kill. So definitely a spicy option. We've got Dragonite with Terra Ground. So Dragonite could potentially just dodge an Electro Shot off of opposing Archelodon while having Stomping Tantrum for some ground type coverage, which will now gain stab from the Terra Ground. We've got the Scale Shot to speed up Dragonite itself, and then we have Tailwind support for the rest of the team, which Goldengo definitely loves. And then we also have White Herb, Unburden Sneasler. So now if Incineroar comes in, Sneasler can pop Terra Ghost, become immune to Fake Out, and have a double speed boosted close combat ready to go. And plus, the nice thing about the White Herb is if Sneasler takes an Intimidate drop, the White Herb is just going to activate and clear its stat drop. So Yes, I am all for that. I am definitely all for this team. I really think Justin had a great team at this regional. Coming in with number 4, we have Jonathan Barades Ruiz's team. We have Sinistra, Annihilate, Mousehold, Ursaluna Blood Moon with an Assault Vest, as well as Tyranitar and Klefki. So we do have the misty terrain on Klefki to override psychic and grassy terrain. We have screen support with reflect and light screen, and we also have dazzling gleam for a little bit of spread damage. We have the light clay here on Klefki to extend our screens. And the nice thing too about misty terrain is while grassy, electric, and psychic terrains boost their respective typings moves for grounded Pokemon, Misty Terrain does the reverse and actually weakens the typing, so it actually weakens grounded Dragon type attacks. So that's kind of a nice way of getting around some of these powerful Dragon type attacks, like say Draco Meteor, Dragon Claw, Outrage, Dragapult's Dragon Darts. Like that is a nice way of kind of getting around that. We have Terra Flying, Clear Amulet, Tyranitar with knockoff, Rock Slide, and Low Kick. Basically, we have strong damage coming off of a strong Pokemon, and it's nice to see the Tyranitar coming in here. We have Assault Vested Ursaluna Blood Moon, which that's an interesting tech to see kind of popping up more and more, especially with a non-Terra normal set. We have Terra Water here, while still having the typical Blood Moon, Hyper Voice, and Earth Power, but now we have the Vacuum Wave, so now you have a little bit of priority to be able to threaten some Pokemon that are a bit faster, say such as Golden Go, so you can threaten them outside of Trick Room with the Vacuum Wave for a little bit of coverage. We have Safety Goggles, Friend Guard, Mousehold, which Friend Guard's going to add some natural defensive support to the team by reducing the amount of damage they all take. We have Beat Up to set up Annihilate. We have Follow Me for redirection. And then we have Taunt, which Taunt is great. Taunt can basically shut down, say, Follow Me. And I'm also just realizing now, when I was talking about round 5 of Frankfurt, I forgot one of the Pokemon. I'm pretty sure it was the Mousehold. And we did see Electabuzz get taunted in round 5 of Frankfurt, so he couldn't really go for any supportive moves. So seeing taunt on Mousehold is really nice right there. We have Terra Ghost to protect it from Fake Out and other unpleasant normal type attacks such as Extreme Speed. And yeah, I think Mousehold just being able to go for that beat up to enable Annihilate or just to redirect away an attack to protect Blood Moon or Tyranitar is certainly nice, especially since the safety goggles will protect the Mousehold from Rage Powder, and it'll also protect it from Spore. So you kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds with the safety goggles and Terra Ghost. And also, weird question, how do you guys think the Mousehold wears the safety goggles? Like, do you think all 4 of them just have their own little pair of goggles, or does like one of the 2 parent Mouseholds just wear the goggles? It just pulls everyone behind it. Like, do we think that's maybe what they do, or do we think that in game the trainers just have to have like 4 little pairs of goggles for these mice? Anyways, just random food for thought. Getting back on track, we have Sinistra and Annihilate as well as the other 2 members of this team. Sinistra being able to go for Life Dew and have its hospitality ability in tandem can easily start building up HP recovery for Annihilate, especially if Annihilate starts getting set up with some bulk ups. And that would also pair nicely with Annihilate having the leftovers item as well and the Drain Punch. Like once Annihilate gets set up, like it's not worried about it. It's not worried about damage being done to it. It's more or less worried about how much damage it can do to the opponents fast enough. Like, yeah, like attacks will just kind of bounce off Annihilate with the screen support, the leftovers, then the Sinistra will definitely keep Annihilate nice and healthy. So yeah, definitely a very, very scary team. And plus, the Blood Moon could come in, go for the stab, Hyper Voice, and because Mind's Eye does allow it to hit Ghost types with normal type attacks and fighting type attacks, Ghost types are not really kind of safe at this point. And maybe even the other thing to keep in mind too is like if you end up in an Annihilate mirror, your bulk ups are doing nothing to stop a blood moon. So yeah, going Terra Water, becoming neutral to fighting is definitely huge, because then the blood moon could just nail that annihilate with a stab blood moon. So certainly a scary thing to see. Very cool team. Definitely like to see that. Let's move on to number 5. We've got William Brown's water team here. We've got Sinisha, Basculegion, Archaludon, Greninja, Annihilate, and Pelipper. So we have a lot of water overlap here, but the nice thing here is we have a manual rain setting with Greninja with Rain Dance. We have Pelipper's Drizzle ability to set it. We have Water Shuriken on Greninja with a loaded dice to quickly set up Annihilate. And if we don't get Annihilate set up, well, we have Final Gambit. So, like, Annihilate can do one of two things. It can get set up and just go for massive Rage Fist damage. It can just nuke something with a close combat, because that's also nasty and disgusting. It can taunt, and then it can just blow something up by taking itself out with Final Gambit. So, like, Annihilate having that massive HP stat is certainly not something you want to be seeing coming your way, especially since it can easily get an attack boost with the Defiant ability if an Incineroar switches in on it. And this thing is also protected from Fake Out because of its natural typing, because, yes, it's Ape. Ape does a lot of damage, and Ape can just do some massive well, Ape can mess you up if you're not prepared. Like, Ape in Final Gambit is disgusting. Now, the interesting thing is we don't see a Choice Scarf on it. We do see Safety Goggles. So Ape is kind of in a weird situation here, because while it is faster, it's like Scarf Mons can kind of disrupt the Final Gambit. And I'm also noticing too, it's actually Terra Water on the Ape. So, like, Ape can get burned, which could be very gross. But I mean, hey, Ape is Ape is Ape. Ape does a lot of damage. Best Ape to ever ape. I'm so glad Primeape got an evolution, by the way. But yeah, anyways, moving on from the Annihilate factor here and going back to Greninja, we do have Haze here. So Haze is great for getting rid of Dondozo boosts. Like, Greninja is exactly 1 point faster than a max speed plus 2 Dozo with a jolly nature. So Greninja just has that nice little spike working in its favor, where it can just turn the Dozo matchup into a 1v2, which is wonderful, especially for, like, say, something like, say, Archaludon to then just do some massive electric type damage with the Electro Shot, and while the Unaware would ignore the special attack boost, you fire off enough of those in the rain and you're going to be having a good time. And, you know, even if the Dozo terastallizes away, while Unaware ignores your drops as well, you can just start throwing back-to-back Draco Meteors, and it's going to be as if you never lost your special attack stat right there. So, yeah, like, Archaludon and Greninja definitely seem like a very reliable way of getting around Dondozo. And then we also have Basculegion. With the Choice Band, we have Terra Water, Swift Swim, Wave Crash, Aqua Jet, Flip Turn, and then the Last Respects, because you gotta have them Last Respects, especially when Basculegion's coming in towards the late game. And, you know, the banded priority on Aqua Jet is definitely scary when there's no means of blocking priority right there. I think this is definitely a really, really cool team. And if it wasn't for the Haze Tech, I would maybe say, like, you know, Smeargle can easily be a scary thing if you're looking at this and thinking, like, for the next GC, if you want to play something similar. If you're not too worried about Dozo, like, you could run Smeargle, and then that way too, you could have Spore and Follow Me. So yeah, I think this is definitely a really, really cool team. Now, when we were talking about its matchup into Electabuzz, that is the one thing that is a little bit concerning for me. But I mean, hey, if the Basculegion turns around and just hits that Electabuzz for massive damage with a Choice Band, if it hits it enough times, the Electabuzz is still going down at the end of the day. So, like, there is that working in its favor as well, seeing as Raging Bolt and Thunderclap are not in this format. So, yeah. Definitely a good thing to keep in mind. Let's move on to number 6. All right, here at number 6, we have Marcus Dion with Incineroar. Basculegion, Mousehold, Golden Go, Dragonite, and Annihilate. But I'm starting to notice a trend here. There's a lot of Annihilate in the top 8 here. And this one here, just like our last team, we got Terra Water, we got Safety Goggles, Close Combat, Final Gambit, Rage Fist, and Taunt. So basically it's pretty much the same Annihilate right there, even with the Defiant ability. So we touched on that. We don't really need to linger too much on that one. We got Dragonite here with Scale Shot, Tailwind, Haze, and Protect. So interesting that the Dragonite only has the one attacking move, and the rest is all support. We have Golden Go with Specs, Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, and Power Gem. And makes a lot of sense. Next to Dragonite, you can go for the Tailwind, you can go for a Make It Rain or two, go for the Haze, undo the Make It Rain, and now that Choice Specs is basically putting you back into a net positive, and you're doing even more damage. So, you definitely have that. And plus, the Golden Go is Terra Steel, because they want to definitely make it rain pain, that's for sure. So that Golden Go is definitely doing that. And plus, it does have the Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, and Power Gem for great coverage options, with Shadow Ball also having that stab. We have Super Fang in Faint, Mousehold with Rocky Helmet. Let's go. I love Rocky Helmet redirection support. Super Fang is great, seeing as it can just cut the HP of something in half, especially something that's bulky. We have Terra Poison, so Mousehold is easily able to resist fighting type attacks this way. And it also has Faint, so being able to have that little bit of chip damage and being able to break priority is awesome coming off a Mousehold. And then maybe if something thinks they're being safe from that Golden Go with the Make It Rain, Mousehold just goes neener, and hits them with a Faint. It breaks the protection, and then Golden Go turns around and just nails them with that Make It Rain and send them straight to the Shadow Realm. And then we got Basculegion with a Focus Sash and Adaptability this time with Terra Ghost, with Last Respects, Liquidation, Aqua Jet, and Protect, which, that's some really cool tech to see as well, because we're getting the double Terra Ghost stab for Last Respects, and then we're getting Adaptability. So even if there's not many Pokemon knocked out, maybe there's only one Pokemon fainted, Last Respects is going to do a lot of super effective damage to opposing ghost types. And even because there's so many Pokemon that just don't outright resist ghosts, it's some great neutral coverage right there. And then we have Terra Grass, Assault Vested Incineroar with U-Turn, Knockoff, Fake Out, and Flare Blitz. So that Incineroar is looking to do very good damage at the end of the day. So yeah, that's number 6 right there. Let's move on to number 7. Eric Schrader's team is bringing sand here. We got Sneasler, Excadrill, which I love to see that Excadrill. We got another Annihilate, this time with Terra Dragon. We've got Tyranitar and Male Indeedee and Mousehold. So we've got anti-priority with Indeedee. We have the Choice Scarf. We have the Trick. We have Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam. So this Indeedee can definitely razzle some dazzles with that. And then it's got Terra Psychic and single target Psychic coverage in Terra Blast. So you don't have to worry about Wide Guard in this particular case. You can go for that Psychic type stab Terra Blast. And plus, because Terra Blast is normally a normal type move to begin with, if Indeedee's not terrestrialized, it still has some stab normal coverage as well. So that's also fun. We've got Assault Vested T-Tar with Knockoff, Low Kick, Terra Blast, and Rock Slide paired with Terra Flying. So we can definitely punish some fighters that way. The Annihilate's got fairly standard bulk up set, this time with a Citrus Berry and Terra Dragon. So it's going to be resistant to electric, water, fire, and grass. And being able to be resistant to water and grass is huge for a team that does have Tyranitar on it. So being able to have a little bit of extra support for dealing with some water and grass type Pokemon is relatively handy, even if it is just being able to resist their stab attacks. So that is certainly nice. We have Excadrill with Terra Stellar looking to power up its Earthquake or High Horsepower on the ground type front, while having that nice stab Iron Head and those nice potential flinch odds, while having Sand double up Excadrill speed. Excadrill has always been a prominent Pokemon in previous formats, so it's nice to see Excadrill coming to battle and being able to show the formats what they've been missing out on without it. So like Excadrill is definitely able to come in and put in a good performance here. And then we have Sneasler with Terra Stellar and the Psychic Seed Unburden combination. This one has Throat Chop, which is especially scary for Golden Go players because now Sneasler has a super effective means of hitting them when Golden Go is not terrestrialized. And if Golden Go has no defense investment, it is not appreciating a Throat Chop. And the Psychic Seed is also going to help Sneasler take a special attack from Golden Go just a little bit better. And if Golden Go thinks they're getting around the Throat Chop by going for a Terra, well, now Sneasler can hit them with Dire Claw. Yeah, unless they go for Terra Steel. But yeah, Sneasler can then just turn around and hit him with Dire Claw or Close Combat. And even if they go Terra Steel, well, now you have the Close Combat. So like, that is definitely not something Golden Go wants to see. I think this is a really cool sand team. I really love seeing the combination of the T-Tar, the Ape, the Mousehold, because again, the Mousehold does have beat up, and the Safety Goggles also protects the Mousehold from a little bit of that sand chip, so that is nice as well. Mousehold is kind of a little bit on the more fragile side, so being able to reduce that extra chip damage with the Safety Goggles is nice. And now let's move on to the 8th team of our top 8 and see what we have right there. All right, so pivoting away from Eric Schrader's Sand Core, we've got Brandon Davis's team with Female Indeedee, Solomons, Flamigo, Ursaluna, Armarouge, and Archaludon. Now, this is an interesting one because it's actually Power Herb Terra Electric Archaludon, so we don't see the grass type Terra variant. Now we see the Terra Electric, seeing as Archaludon can go for that one-time Power Herb for the Electro Shot, get that special attack boost, and then just start punishing opponents with Thunderbolt and Dragon Pulse. And maybe if play your prediction games right, you might even be able to sneak in a second Electro Shot, even just to get that second special attack boost to really kind of push Archaludon over to the next level. And the ability on it is actually interesting to note because instead of Stamina or Sturdy, it's actually Stalwart. And Stalwart makes it so that Archaludon's attacks can't be redirected, which is wonderful. I really like Stalwart as an ability, and I'm glad to see Archaludon running it. Especially since when you see non-assault vested Archaludon, you typically see the Sturdy set so that Archaludon doesn't have to worry about just getting one shot. Because without the assault vest, its special defense is a little bit kind of questionable. I mean, it's still good, but it's not the greatest. So seeing Archaludon with the Stalwart is definitely a unique spin on things. And then as far as the Armarouge goes, we have fairly standard Armarouge stuff. We have the Life Orb, we see Terra Grass, we have Armor Cannon and Expanding Force and Trick Room. So between Armarouge and Indeedee, Trick Room should be able to go up, no problem. Armarouge can do massive damage with the single target Armor Cannon or turn things on their heads inside Trick Room and have that spread Expanding Force just come out of the walls of the Trick Room right there. That would be kind of cool, actually, animation-wise. Instead of Expanding Force just coming up from the ground, like if Trick Room was up, maybe see Expanding Force come from different directions. Like, that would be really cool. Please make it happen in the future, Game Freak. I would love to see that. But anyways, Armarouge can go for that spread Expanding Force with the Psychic Terrain up and do some massive damage as well. So there is certainly that. And plus its Flash Fire ability does protect it from fire type attacks. So if it subs in on a Heat Wave, great. It just ate a Heat Wave. It's now going to be able to do even more damage with Armor Cannon. Similarly enough, it can do a lot more damage if it switches in on a Flare Blitz and just punish opponents with the Armor Cannon. So there is that. We have Trick Room of Happy Ursaluna. We have the Flame Orb to boost up Guts. We have Terra Ghost to protect it from fighting type attacks while also dropping a lot of its weaknesses. We gain a fighting type immunity. We become neutral to water and grass. Like Ursaluna is just looking to have a good time with that boosted up Facade and Headlong Rush on the single target side while having the Earthquake spread option. We have Flamigo here with Detect and Taunt, which the Taunt is relatively nice because it can just shut down opposing Trick Room if this team wants to play toward the Tailwind mode with Solomons. So we do have that. It can punish things with Scrappy and Close Combat working together while also having dual Wing Beat to threaten fighting type Pokemon such as Sneasler and Annihilate. So definitely a nice thing to see with the Scrappy Flamigo. And then we have Solomon's here to be able to turn on Tailwind for the team. It's got Dragon Claw and Dual Wing Beat for some coverage. And then it's also got Terra Steel for some ice type resistance, which is relatively nice, while providing Intimidate support for the team. And we also have Indeedee with also Follow Me and Trick Room. Interestingly enough, no Protect on it because it does have Helping Hand and Alluring Voice. But I think this is a really solid thing for Indeedee. It can go Terra Fairy to become resistant to dark type attacks. It can go for the Trick Room. It can sit on the field next to Armarouge and click Follow Me if Armarouge wants to set up the Trick Room, or if your opponent might think you're doing that, Indeedee could opt to go for Trick Room itself or click Helping Hand, and Armarouge can go for big damage. And the scary thing about Armarouge and Indeedee is you never know how much speed investment the Armarouge is going to have. So for all you know, the Armarouge might actually be a little bit more on the speedier side. Indeedee goes for the Helping Hand, or even if Tailwind is still active, Indeedee goes for the Helping Hand, and then the Armarouge just turns around and goes for the Expanding Force right there. So yeah. What a good way to round out the top 8 teams for Monterrey. I think we definitely saw a lot of wild combinations. We definitely saw our fair share of Annihilapes. We saw a lot of Golden Goes. And the nice thing here, too, is like we definitely see a lot of Pokemon that overlap, but different combinations, which is very nice. Now, let's take a look at the top 8 teams out of Frankfurt. All right, let's talk about our top 8 teams for the 2026 Frankfurt Regional Pokemon Championships. And we have a lot of Golden Go, Sneasler, Annihilate, and Archaludon and Ursaluna all showing up amongst the top 8 teams. Very similar to what we saw with the top 8 teams from the Monterrey Regional Championships. We do see a lot of that Golden Go, a lot of the Ursaluna and the Annihilate and Sneasler. We have our grand champion Emmanuel Brigante going 14-2, winning the tournament with Golden Go, Sneasler, Alolan Ninetales, Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Ursaluna Blood Moon, which very powerful team at the end of the day. And I'm curious to see how Ursaluna made out without the Trick Room. Now, obviously, it made out very good because, this person did happen to win the entire thing. And obviously, this would have made it onto stream, which unfortunately I didn't get to watch. But I'm excited to go back and watch the VODs later and talk about the Poke Pastes as far as these top 8 teams go. And just kind of scrolling through it here, we do see some interesting variety amongst the top 8. While we do see some very similar stuff with the overlapping Golden Goes and Ursalunas, we do see Basculegion on the runner-ups team. Victor Medina, who went 13-3, which is pretty impressive. We have Shohei Kimura coming in at 3rd with Golden Go, Annihilate, and Mousehold, and Blood Moon, Dragonite, and Rillaboom. David Carrer came in 4th, bringing Espafra and Hydreigon, which those are 2 of the spiciest Pokemon I've seen in the top 8 for this team, or for this tournament. We have Fabian Braun coming in at 5th with Sinistra, Archaludon, Dragonite, Pelipper, Ursaluna, and Golden Go, which honestly, we just see Archaludon just kind of going solo there. We don't see like a beat-up set, but honestly, I'm curious to see how that definitely played out, which we'll definitely get into with the pastes. We have Olivier Escalin with Sableye at number 6. We have Joan Garcia bringing Baxcalibur, which I love to see that Baxcalibur. And we also have Solo Dondozo, which you know what that means. Fissure Dondozo. Yay. I don't like Fissure. I've been hurt by Fissure very, very badly in the past. And suddenly, a lot of Terraflying on Pokemon make a lot more sense. But yeah, anyways, face cam away. So yeah, we have Solo Dondozo, which is definitely a scary thing to see, packing that one-hit KO move in Fissure, which, I mean, hey, that is one way to finish up a mirror match. And then we have Valentin Vizier. Again, I'm so sorry for anyone whose names I've mispronounced. Please, by all means, let me know in the comments how to properly pronounce these names. We have Sinistra, Dragonite, Pelipper, Ursaluna, Annihilate, and Archaludon. So a lot of powerful Pokemon here within the top 8. And I am kind of curious to see, because Emmanuel would have had obviously a very, very good showing here, going 14-2 out of the 16 rounds. And I'm kind of curious to see where the 2 losses happened, which we have one showing up in round 10 to Fabian Braun, who we just named off just a few moments ago. And then in round 4, to Flynn Leonard Knoll. So yeah, okay. So in round 4, we saw Emmanuel lose to what appears to be a hard Trick Room team with Porygon 2, Amoonguss, Ursaluna, Flamigo, Goldengo, and Incineroar. And then Fabian also does have that Trick Room mode here with the Sinistra in the Ursaluna. And Pelipper, depending on how it's trained, could be interesting, because Pelipper being at 65 speed, it's not necessarily the fastest Pokemon out there. So Pelipper might have been a threat in Trick Room as well. So definitely an interesting thing to see there as far as the matchups go. And then just looking at some of the other players that Emmanuel faced, we see Giuseppe Ilario with Corviknight, Tyranitar, and Garchomp. So, if there's a Sandville Garchomp right there, that's extraordinarily spicy. We also have Corviknight for some potential body press shenanigans. So, yeah, I think we definitely saw some really cool teams in this matchup, just looking over for our champions' win-loss records right there. And also in round 1, they paired with some of the Breath's Pupa. Of course. But hey, there's a Weavile in round 2. So that's really cool. But yeah, I think we got some really cool Pokemon showing up. Let's jump into some of these Pokepastes. All right, so looking into Emmanuel's team in their Pokepaste, we have Terra Ghost Incineroar with safety goggles. With standard Incineroar things, we've got Flare Blitz, Knockoff, Fake Out, and Parting Shot. We've got Life Orb, Golden Go with Terra Water. We have Grassy Seed, Unburdened Sneasler with Acrobatics and Swords Dance, which I think I saw a little bit of stuff about this on Twitter, which honestly, Swords Dance and Acrobatics is terrifying with Terra flying. So terrifying that it actually made me lose my breath right there. But yeah, Swords Dance plus Acrobatics in close combat. Yeah, that's disgusting. Like, the pleasant thing here is there's no Dire Claw for opponents, but the scary thing is of what the Acrobatics is going to do instead, especially where it's the close combat just punishes pretty much anything that resists flying right there. We have the Alolan Ninetales with Blizzard, Icy Wind, Disable, and Protect. So really, I hope some people that had some moves, I hope they were okay with losing them to that Disable. We got Rillaboom with Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, High Horsepower, and Fake Out. And then we have Blood Moon Ursaluna, and here's something terrifying. I did not know this thing got Yawn, but it's got Yawn, Protect, Earth Power, and Blood Moon. So, I mean, that's a really scary thing. Like, if you inflict the Yawn, and then your opponent opts to stay asleep or fall asleep, they can just get nailed with the Blood Moon. And if they switch, whatever's switching out takes the Blood Moon, or whatever switches in takes the Blood Moon. And I'm also just noticing Terra Electric right there, which honestly, that makes a lot of sense, seeing as it would only have the one weakness to ground type attacks right there. So Ursaluna would get very bulky. And with the leftovers in mind as the held item, I feel like this is a Ursaluna that's very defensively trained with some good special attack investment right there. So yeah, this is an extremely cool looking team right there. I really dig the Swords Dance Acrobatics on it. And now let's run into the runner-ups team. Victor Medina, we've got Basculegion and Golden Go. So 2 ghosts. We have Life Orb on the Golden Go with Terra Flying. Make It Rain, Shadow and Nasty Plot. We've got the Basque Legion with a Choice Band with Swift Swim, Wave Crash, Last Respects, Flip Turn, and Aquajet. We've got Amoonguss, interestingly enough, with Terra Psychic. We've got the Pollen Puff and Rage Powder and Spore. And I'm thinking the Terra Psychic is maybe so that it could possibly resist psychic type attacks, such as Expanding Force. Though, yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm kind of seeing it with the Terra Psychic, because if you went Terra Dark, sure, you're immune to psychic type attacks, but you know what's really popular? Sneasler and Annihilate, two prevalent fighting type Pokemon. So at least you get to keep the resistance to fighting type attacks while also being resistant to psychic in this case. So yeah, that's some really cool tech right there on the Amoonguss. We've got Terra Water Safety Goggles Incin, Archaladon with Terra Fighting and Body Press alongside Stamina. So they're just going for the extra damage right there on the Body Press. And we also see the Electroshot and Draco Meteor right there paired with the Assault Vest. And then we have Pelipper with Terra Ghost and a Focus Sash with Weather Ball, Hurricane, Tailwind, and Protect. So really cool team here as well. Definitely a really cool team. Moving on to Shohei at number 3, we've got Annihilate, Mousehold. The Annihilate is very standard here with the bulk up set with Rage Fist and Drain Punch. It has a Citrus Berry and the Defiant ability, which honestly, I'm kind of curious if we'll ever see Annihilate with its other two abilities. Probably not, because Defiant just feels so good, but I'm pretty sure Annihilate also gets Inner Focus and maybe Vital Spirit as its two abilities. So like, it's just kind of occurring to me, like, we always see Defiant on Annihilate. Like, I'm kind of wonder if maybe there is a potential door open for Inner Focus, whereas it is immune to Intimidate. But I mean, getting the free attack boost from Defiant probably is just too good to pass up. We have Focus Sash, Terra Ghost, Mousehold with Super Fang and Beat Up. And so, you know, you can cut through something that's really bulky with the Super Fang, and you have the Beat Up to enable the Rage Fist. Absolute powerhouse right there. We've got Scale Shot right here on Dragonite to speed it up. And interestingly enough, we do see Tailwind, Haze, and Protect as the other moves. So the Dragonite can face a little bit of trouble with some Fairy-type Pokemon. But I mean, if you get the Mousehold and Annihilate setup right there, I don't think that really matters too much at the end of the day. We've got Assault Vested Blood Moon with Terra Water with Blood Moon, Earth Power, Hyper Voice, and Vacuum Wave. So again, we do have the ability to threaten some faster Pokemon with that priority Vacuum Wave, especially where there's not many special priority moves out there outside of maybe, say, Vacuum Wave and Water Shuriken. We've got our Terra Water Golden Go with a Nasty Plot and Life Orb set. And then we have Rillaboom here with a Miracle Seed to boost up its Grass-type damage for the Grassy Glide and Wood Hammer, while still having the Fake Out and high horsepower. So, you know, that's pretty cool. It's seeing a little bit of the more offensive option for the Rillaboom with the extra damage as opposed to the Assault Vest, since that is tied up with the Ursaluna. Moving into David Kerr's team, this is the spicy tech because we have the Espathra and the Hydreigon now. So Espathra with its Lumina Crash is able to cut the special defense of targets right there. So that's big right out of the gate, being able to reduce the durability of something on the special side, especially since Hydreigon can come in and just go for big damage with the Draco Meteor. But that's not all too, because the Hydreigon also has the supportive angle with the Snarl and Taunt. So you do have that spread option with the Snarl to not only reduce special attack, but to get rid of sashes, and the Taunt can deny Tailwind or Trick Room coming off a slower Pokemon than Hydreigon, which Hydreigon is a pretty decent speed Pokemon. Like, it's a base 98 speed Pokemon. So depending on how much speed investment you see in that Hydreigon, like, Hydreigon can potentially cause some disruption right there with that Taunt. We also have Female Indeedee with Follow Me and Helping Hand. Interestingly enough, no Trick Room, but I mean, there is the Espathra right here. So the Espathra has the Expanding Force option, and it also has the Speed Boost ability. So at the end of each turn, Espathra is getting faster, which honestly, this is just an interesting, like, we're going to see Espathra get fast and do some big damage. Then we also have Hisuian Arcanine with a Mirror Herb. So this is one of those cases where you kind of want to switch in on the Defiant Mon, since the Mirror Herb will then give you the +2 attack, while the Defiant Mon is only going to be at +1. And we have Close Combat, Rock Slide, and Flare Blitz. Interestingly enough, no extreme speed, but makes sense because of the psychic terrain. Now, I think it could have been cool to see the extreme speed, and then if the psychic terrain needed to go up, great. And then if it wasn't up, you could have that extreme speed pressure. But I mean, hey, the close combat is definitely a great option right there. And we do have Terra Water on the Arcanine, so we are able to become resistant to water type attacks while also dropping our ground type weakness. And we have Flare Blitz to cover any grass types that might be getting excited that we're now a water type. We have Assault Vested Terra Flying King Gambit with Terra Blast, Low Kick, Sucker Punch, and Kowtow Cleave. So, pretty strong option for King Gambit. And then we have Psychic Seed Sneasler. So this team is extraordinarily fast, and I definitely see why it's extraordinarily fast. And the other thing too is to point out, going back to King Gambit, is it's nice to see the Sucker Punch there, because it can cover for non-grounded Pokemon that are either Terra Flying or just Flying type to begin with the Sucker Punch. So it is nice to see that the King Gambit can turn around and just still have that extra priority and not have to worry about the fact that it is a rather slower Pokemon to begin with. And going back into Sneasler, it's nice to see the Psychic Seed paired with the Unburden, Throat Chop, Close Combated Dire Claw combination. And this time, instead of, say, Terra Ghost, we do have Terra Dark, since the Psychic terrain is going to protect Sneasler from Fake Out. So you can go for that Terra Dark and have that stab on Throat Chop now. So that is relatively impressive to see Sneasler being able to do big damage with that stab boosted Throat Chop. Now, let's move on to Fabian. And this is one of the two players who was able to defeat our grand champion. We've got Sinisha with Terra Dark, Matcha Gotcha, Rage Powder, Trick Room, and Life Dew, the Hospitality ability. So this thing can provide some good HP recovery to its partner, Archaladon, which honestly, Archaladon looks very scary here with the Terra Fighting to give stab to body press, while having the Electroshot to power up its own damage output, while also powering up Flash Cannon. And it does have some supportive options in Snarl, or I should have said some supportive capability in Snarl, while also having that spread coverage, so it doesn't have to worry about potentially getting redirected. We have Muddy Water Pelipper as opposed to Weather Ball, so we can potentially see some accuracy drops with the Muddy Water. We have Hurricane, we have Wide Guard, we have Protect. Our Terra type is Ground to get rid of our 4x electric weakness, and we have the Safety Goggles to get around Spore as well as Rage Powder. You'll love to see it. We've got single attacking Dragonite with Scale Shot, Tailwind, and Haze, while having Protect around that out, and the loaded dice to make sure the Scale Shot is able to hit a minimum of 4 times. Now, the one thing I'm kind of curious about, especially because this is multi-scale and because we have seen a few Dragonites with just Scale Shot, I understand the logic of having the supportive options, but I'm just kind of curious about what happens if you take a Fake Out, or not a Fake Out, a knockoff, and lose your loaded dice at that point. Like, what's the backup plan? If anyone has some insight on that, please let me know in the comments below. More or less, I'm eager to learn about this particular set a little bit more, how it operates, partially because I kind of struggle with it, but partially because I'm just genuinely curious. We have Ursaluna here with Headlong Rush, Earthquake, Facade, Protect, Terra Ghost, and Flame Orb, just to do some big damage like Ursaluna likes to do. And then we have Scarf, Golden Go with Terra Flying, Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, and Power Gem, and Trick to round that out. Overall, very cool team. Now we're getting into Olivier Escolin's team, which we have the Sableye, which this Sableye has Prankster Disable, which I was kind of curious, wondering what Prankster tech it has. It's got Prankster Taunt as well as Screens, and Sableye being able to be immune to Fake Out thanks to being a Dark Ghost type is kind of a nice alternative to Grimmsnarl, since it can't eat that Fake Out. It can go for a screen of its own. It doesn't have to worry about Prankster Taunt because it's a Dark type as well. Like, I think Sableye is a great option for a little supportive Gremlin. Now, It's not the most durable, so there is the risk there. But I mean, I think Sableye is really cool tech. We have our first offensive looking mousehold here with wide lens pop bomb, which, yeah, we got Terra Ghost, we got Follow Me, Taunt, and Protect. Which, because Annihilate is here on the team, Annihilate is definitely a scary option for the ghost types that would otherwise be laughing at that pop bomb. And we also have the Blood Moon Ursaluna with the Assault Vest, with the Hyper Voice and Blood Moon. So it can punish ghost types that way. It's got the Vacuum Wave as well to threaten Golden Go, and it's got the Earth Power. And interestingly enough, because the Annihilate is Terra Water and not a type that resists normal, I'm kind of curious to see if the idea is just to let Annihilate sit on the field and take hits, and then just naturally build up Rage Fist's power that way. Because we don't really see anything. Like, we don't see Terra Fire on it. We don't see Bullet Seed on the Rillaboom. We actually see Miracle Seed with Grassy Glide and Woodhammer. So I'm assuming the main idea for the Annihilate for this particular team is to just kind of like build up Rage Fist as the game goes on, and then start going for them while having the bulk up and drain punch option right there. Now, the other interesting thing too is because it's Terra Water, you do have to watch for burns. So you don't really have Misty, you don't have any Misty Terrain, you don't have the burn immunity from Terra Fire. So like, you do kind of have to be a little bit careful if you're Annihilate in this particular case. But I mean, hey, it made top 6 of the regional. It definitely handled its own. It navigated through battle. Good is what I'm trying to get out of me. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. We also have Dragonite here rounding out the team with Terra Normal, Extreme Speed, and Scale Shot, with Haze and Protect as the last 2 moves. And it's kind of nice to see that normal Terra on the Extreme Speed, since it can provide some additional firepower that way. So moving on to team number 7, we have Joan Garcia with Don Solo with Liquidation, Yawn, and Fissure. And if I remember right, I think I heard a little bit of an inkling from Twitter about a Dondozo landing 4 fissures in a row. And this might have been them. And honestly, I think if that ever happened to me, where I was playing an opponent that just lands 4 fissures in a row, I think I might die a little inside. Honestly, I felt a little bit of my soul leave my body when I read that tweet. So, yeah. And honestly, this Dondozo gets even more disgusting, seeing that it's got that Yawn tech right there alongside the leftovers to protect the Terra Poison. Like, that is definitely an infuriating Dondozo. And I mean, hey, you gotta respect it. The fissure, while it is inaccurate, if you can pull off 4 of them in a row, I don't know if that's just RNG, like just deciding like, you know what, you win for the day, or if you should go buy a lottery ticket. But yeah, 4 fissures in a row. Maybe I'm a little bit salty because I had a Groudon miss something like 4 Precipice Blades in a row in LA. And I think I'm actually kind of salty about that. But you know what? This Dondozo, the fissure, though, it is a good way of getting around the mirror, especially getting around something that's already set up, like, say, an opposing Dondozo in Tatsugiri. You land that fissure, and it doesn't matter how strong their stat boosts are. They're just gone. So, yeah. That's gross. But as far as the rest of the team goes, we have King Gambit here with Swords Dance, Kowtow Cleave, and Sucker Punch. Interestingly enough, it's safety goggles as far as the held item goes, and as far as the Terra goes, it's Terra Ghost as opposed to Terra Dark. So we have the fighting immunity right there with the Terra Ghost, and the safety goggles as opposed to the black glasses is definitely an interesting thing, seeing as King Gambit, while it does have that Sucker Punch and Kowtow for big damage with Sword Stance, you typically see the black glasses right there to see the extra amount. So I'm kind of curious to see the safety goggles. Now, obviously, that's definitely a great thing to get around the redirection with Rage Powder. So yeah, I do understand why it is there. It's just kind of a different thing to see as far as the tech goes, that's for sure. We have Baxcalibur here with Scale Shot, Icicle Spear, and a loaded dice, plus Ice Shard, which, you know what, it's great to see Baxcalibur. It feels like it's been a genuinely long time since we've seen Baxcalibur in action, and Baxcalibur being able to do quite a bit of damage with that loaded dice is awesome. We also have Coaching Sneasler right here, so this is very spicy because if the Baxcalibur gets the coaching boost from Sneasler, it doesn't really matter that there's no direct means of manipulating thermal exchange on the team because Baxcalibur is getting that extra attack boost right there from the coaching. Plus, it's got the defense boost until it goes for the scale shot and lands the scale shot. So really, a +1 Baxcalibur landing a guaranteed 4 hits of Icicle Spear, it's definitely going to be threatening a lot of opponents, especially since we've seen so many Dragonite within the Frankfurt regional. Like, there's just so much Dragonite, so much Garchomp. It makes a lot of sense to have that Ice type coverage. And having that Ice Shard for the priority is nice too, seeing as Dragonites that are not terastallized are flying Pokemon, so they aren't protected by Psychic Drain until they terastallize. So really, that's great for getting past those Dragonites with the 4 times Ice weakness, especially getting a coaching boost on top of that. Like, you have the priority, you have the extra attack stat right there. It's big damage. And then we also have Volcarona and Rillaboom here. We have an Assault Vest on the Rillaboom. We have the high horsepower Woodhammer and Grassy Glide that we've been seeing while going over this with no U-turn. And then as far as the Volcarona goes, we do have the Covert Cloak here to protect it from Fake Out. We have Rage Powder and Quiver Dance together alongside Terra Blast and Heat Wave. So that's pretty nice because if you do have a specially prominent attacker right there, Volcarona can go for the Quiver Dance, boost up its special defense, and then start redirecting away special attacks into itself. So Volcarona can definitely get away with that. And then it can also just turn on the gas or step on the gas and just go for big damage with the single target Terra Blast or the spread Heatwave option right there. So Joan Garcia definitely has a very fun looking team. And another thing to make a note of too is that Dondozo, if it gets a coaching boost or 2 into it, it can just sit there and go for the fissure, which is, yeah, that's terrifying. That is actually really terrifying. Anyways, so bringing it out to a close, we have Valentin Vizier's 2026 Frankfurt team. We have Sinistra, we have Annihilate, Ursaluna, Pelipper, Dragonite, and Archaludon. We have 2 different formidable Dragon-type Pokemon here with the Archaludon and the Dragonite. We have the Rain to enable the Archaludon's Electro Shot. We have Terra Fighting to give Body Press its stab bonus damage. We have Snarl for some utility in lowering the special attack out of its opponents. And on top of that, Electroshock can power itself up and Flash Cannon at the same time, the more it gets used while there is Pelipper's Rain on the field. So Archaludon can get very scary very quickly the more damage it takes, and it's just a powerful Pokemon in general. We do have Dragonite here with Scale Shot to do some damage. It's got the Tailwind to support the rest of the team. Additionally, Pelipper also has Tailwind, so you don't necessarily have to worry about Dragonite necessarily going for that Tailwind. Like, Dragonite could potentially go for a Scale Shot, while Pelipper can focus on setting the Tailwind and then going for big damage later on with Weather Ball or Hurricane. And then Dragonite can kind of focus on just doing more damage with the Scale Shot here. Now, interestingly enough, compared to other Dragonite that were running the 3 supporting moves and Scale Shot, this one here is Terra Steel as opposed to Terra Fairy, so it would be resisting opposing Dragon type attacks as opposed to being outright immune to them. So I'm kind of curious to see why Terra Steel versus Terra Fairy. Now, as far as the rest of the team here goes, we did touch on Pelipper being able to also set Tailwind while having that Hurricane and Weather Ball. And maybe Dragonite set up the Tailwind for Pelipper instead. Now Pelipper has that super accurate and reliable Hurricane, or having that ×2 bonus damage Weather Ball before factoring in water type boosts from the rain as well as stab. So Pelipper could definitely focus as either some Tailwind support or just decide that it's going to go for some big damage in its own right and not be shown up by the other powerhouses such as Ursaluna and Annihilate. We have very standard stuff here with the Ursaluna, with the Terra Ghost, Flame Orb, and Guts, and then we have coaching on the Annihilate. So the Annihilate is a little bit different here. The Annihilate can get itself set up with coaching by taking damage, or it can opt to go for Final Gambit to just to delete something. It can go for coaching to boost up Ursaluna. It could even power up Dragonite or Archaludon by giving them an attack and defense boost. And while the attack boost wouldn't matter for Archaludon, Archaludon would appreciate the defense boost for the bonus damage on the body press. So Annihilate could hypothetically go for our coaching next to Archaludon. And the interesting thing here too is because it's a safety goggles set, the Annihilate is able to opt for coaching, Rage Fist, or close combat to either support its partner or go for some damage, while also having that Final Gambit. Annihilate as a third slot member for a double battle would be interesting, especially if Pelipper or Dragonite hit the field first and then went for Tailwind, because then you wouldn't have to worry about the Choice Scarf not being on Annihilate, since Annihilate would have double speed. It could come in, it can click the Final Gambit if it needs to, and then maybe the Tailwind setter of choice could maybe switch into Sinistcha and then maybe go for some Rage Powder support with the final Pokemon coming in. Or maybe we see something like Dragonite comes in, it goes for Tailwind, Annihilate goes Final Gambit, we get Ursaluna in, maybe we protect with Ursaluna, pivot into Sinistcha, Rage Powder away, get our burn, and then just let Ursaluna do some big damage while there's still some Tailwind turns on the field. And then as Tailwind's about to expire, maybe go for Trick Room. That's kind of some ideas that I was thinking that we might see there. And then we also have the Sinistcha, which the Sinistcha itself has a mental herb on it, so it doesn't have to worry about taunt or encore, just disrupting its Trick Room. So the mental herb can activate, Sinistcha can get Trick Room, and then the team can go into the slow mode here for Ursaluna to just run wild and do as much damage as it wants to do. I mean, it's Ursaluna. It wants to knock over things and just absolutely maul them like the bear that it absolutely is. But yeah, this is a pretty cool team at the end of the day, the more we look into it. And the other thing too is like the Annihilate also has close combat. Yeah. Yeah. I know I said that earlier, but it's kind of dawned on me. The Annihilate can just go for immediate damage with the close combat too. Like, you typically see the Drain Punch, but no, you got a base 120 fighting stab right there as well. Yeah. And also, you might not necessarily care about the defense and special defense drops, because if you have the Tailwind, maybe you just punish something with the close combat, you still have a lot of your HP left, maybe you have Tailwind, and then you go Final Gambit. That's kind of spicy. But yeah, anyways. Before I start going down the Annihilate rabbit hole again, like I did earlier, it's probably for the best that we wrap things up there. Anyways, a lot to cover. We had 2 different regionals. We talked about the top 25 Pokemon for both Monterrey 2026 as well as Frankfurt 2026. Should I have done this in 2 separate videos? Probably, but both regionals happened at the same weekend, so it only felt fitting that we do both regionals in the same video. Now, am I gonna regret how long this is when I go to edit it? Absolutely. You better bet your sweet bippy I will. But hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this massive, and I cannot put enough emphasis on it, massive yap session of mine. Be sure to let me know plenty of things that come to mind. I would definitely look forward to hearing from you. There's definitely a lot of tech on these teams that I definitely couldn't understand what it was meant to accomplish. So if there's definitely any insight you have, definitely want to see that down in the comments below. And yeah, let me know what you think of the data from both of these regionals. And were there any Pokemon that surprised you? Were there any Pokemon that didn't surprise you? I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised about the Sneasler or the Golden Go, but I was surprised to see a Spafra on within the top four of Frankfurt, for example. And I mean, Cypher, obviously, for Monterrey. But yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. And I will see you next time.